Good evening. I have 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Greg David. Here's he is absent. Mr. Tyler Dean.
Here.
Miss Emily Hamburg. Here she's absent. Mr. Tom Schmitz.
Here.
Mr. John Welch.
Present.
And you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening we have Mr. Mark Posen, or Pastor Mark Posen, to lead us in prayer. Pastor Posen.
Thank you. Father, we just come to you, and Father, as we think of this upcoming weekend, as we pause to remember those who've given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, we just are thankful for those who have given so valiantly. Father, for those who have lost loved ones in service, we pray for them. Father, for all of our veterans, we just are thankful and pray for them. Father, for those who are in active military service currently, we're thankful for their service, their time, for the freedoms that we have. And Father, we are thankful for the mayor, for the council members, for the city manager and staff, for their time, for this community that we call Bel Aire. We pray that you would just bless this meeting and bless the agenda, the discussion, the decisions. And Father, just pray for your wisdom. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the American flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is determine agenda additions. Are there any additions to make to the agenda? Hearing none, we can move on to the consent agenda. This consent agenda includes the minutes of the May 6, 2025 council meeting and 3 reappointments. For the city code requires that city manager, city attorney, and municipal court judge be formally reappointed each May.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Schmidt. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The motion carries 3-0. Discussion and approval of appropriations ordinance. This appropriation ordinance encompasses expenses from April 30th through May 15th and 1 payroll cycle. Expenditures amount to $1,761,000, almost $62,000. Of the reported expenses, almost $400,000 are infrastructure costs for new developments. And these costs are paid through special assessments.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean,
I move we approve appropriation ordinance number 25-09.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. Welch. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries 3-0. Next is city requested appearances. We have Gary Jansen here to receive a presentation from the city of Wichita concerning ongoing drought response efforts and what future might hold for water reuse. Mr. Jansen.
Thank you. Got it. Okay. Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm Gary Jansen, Director of Public Works and Utilities for the City of Wichita. As we continue to battle through what is turning out to be a historic drought, the impact to Cheney Reservoir, I've tried to get out and speak with our wholesale customers as well as all of our regular customers. So kind of been on the speaking circuit for a while now. It's important that we get the word out. Everybody understands where we're still at, where we've been, and where we're headed. And I especially like to kind of talk about that part of where we're headed. We've got actually 2 weeks, got a meeting set up with all of our wholesale customers. I think all 11 are going to be there, so we can talk about especially our efforts going forward, which I'll talk about on the last half of this presentation tonight. So I want to start and talk about our two primary raw water sources and some of the things that we've looked at over the course of time, where our drought response plan came from. I get asked the question a lot is, what are you doing to respond to this drought? Hopefully you're not just sitting around waiting for it to rain. We are waiting for it to rain, but we're not sitting around and only doing that. We've done a lot over the course of time to help us be in a much better place right now than we would be otherwise. So I want to visit with you about that. Cheney Reservoir is really the source of our problem. Surface water well below normal. I'll show you some details on that soon. We did get some rain last night that helped. Anything helps at this point. Cheney Reservoir was built in the early 1960s for the purpose of serving Wichita and the region. So we have effectively all the water rights to that reservoir. The Equispeds Aquifer is our groundwater source northwest of Wichita. The city of Wichita has spent hundreds of millions of dollars over the years to enhance the Equispeds Aquifer through our Aquifer Storage and Recovery Project we call ASR. I'll talk about that in more detail too here shortly. As a result of that, the Equispeds is currently 92% full, which is pretty remarkable considering the length of this drought that we've been through and how it's impacted the region. So we're hanging on, and I'll talk more about a drought response plan and what that's done to help us out. I always like to mention El Dorado because people always ask the question, why don't you get water from El Dorado? We've done numerous studies over the years. If you look at the water rights that are available, the cost of conveyance, it just doesn't work out. During the mid to late stages of a regional drought, which would also be impacting El Dorado, the water supply is just not there. We would drain the reservoir in a matter of days. It's not enough supply to make a difference. There currently is no infrastructure from El Dorado Reservoir. We looked at the cost over the years, and if it was a viable water source, I'm not so sure that cost is necessarily prohibitive. But right now there may be a little more water available than at other times, but it just doesn't fit well into our overall portfolio and what we need to do to diversify going forward. So we've looked at that numerous times. It doesn't fit. It's not a good return on investment. Currently, Wichita provides water to 17% of all Kansans. 1 in every 6 Kansans, 500,000 people receive water from Wichita. That includes our own customers, and I mentioned our 11 wholesale customers, which are 8 neighboring cities, 3 rural water districts. I've highlighted Derby and Valley Center because they're working on some things that are going to provide some relief and additional water source. Derby has some untapped water rights, fairly considerable. They're getting ready to build a new water treatment plant. They won't be able to provide enough water for Derby, but they can during the higher demand months, during the summer months where we need the most relief. So that'll be good when they get to that point. And they're also interested in looking at reuse, which I'll talk about here in just a bit. Valley Center is even closer to building a new water treatment plant, utilizing water rights that they have, groundwater rights. For the most part, they will come off of City of Wichita, except for maybe for emergency purposes. So those two combined, again, they add to our overall water availability by not needing as much water from Wichita anymore. I always like to mention McConnell Air Force Base. They use about 100 million gallons a year. Obviously, a very good partner. They have a direct connection from Wichita, very important to the state and to the country. Our existing water treatment plant, top picture, is 85 years old. City Council made a decision probably about 8 years ago to move forward with our new plant, which I'll talk about in a moment too. In the last month, our city council has made a decision to keep our existing plant for emergency purposes as a backup. Even with this new high-tech plant that we've got and all of the technology and the redundancy that comes with it, we still would be remiss, we think, if we didn't hang on to that plant for emergency purposes. Our city manager, when he was in Des Moines, Iowa, their water treatment plant was flooded, and the entire community was without potable water for over a month. So you can imagine the impact that has. Even with the new plant, you never know what might happen. We think we're in a pretty good place, but we have found a way that we can minimize the treatment process in the current plant, bring it online in 24 to 48 hours, and really save capital costs going forward. So we're excited about that. I mentioned Cheney being really the root of our problem. On May 18th, the water level is over 8 feet below normal pool. The last October, Cheney was at an all-time low, about 8.5 feet below normal pool. We had a record November rains, which was good, brought the reservoir back up a foot, still 7.5 foot deep, but it makes a big difference when we start talking about the different stages of our drought response plan, which will be coming up next. Some pretty good rain in the basin last night, because it did, we're talking about a matter of 0.3 of a foot, but anything right now really helps to kind of push this thing further down the road. The Cheney Reservoir is fed by the North Fork of the Nenaskaw River. It's a 600,000 acre basin. Sounds pretty big, but it's since 2022, it's approximately 2 feet below normal precipitation. That is where the problem is coming from. I've heard from a lot of folks in the community over the last 1.5 to 2 years. We get a lot of good input. A lot of people have ideas on what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and that's fine. There's been concerns that growth in the region is what's impacting that. We've got enough water under normal conditions. We've got plenty of water in Cheney Reservoir and the Equus beds to support growth of Wichita and all of our wholesale customers for many, many years to come. So that's not the issue. Growth, I think we can all recognize in the collective region, but especially Wichita, has been slow. It just hasn't been that much. This is absolutely a climate issue and nothing more to it than that. So that level put us into stage 2 watering restrictions in the fall of 2025, which we still remain in. So speaking of that question of what are you doing, what are you looking for as far as water resources? I get the question asked a lot about why don't we dredge Cheney? Make a bigger hole so that way when it rains, you've got more water, bring it back to its original capacity. So our city council has invested significant funds for many, many years now for watershed protection measures to keep the sediment out of Cheney Reservoir. The last study that the Kansas Water Office did showed that the sedimentation loss was about 7%. Pretty remarkable. There are 22 federal reservoirs across Kansas. 2/3 of all Kansans get their water from reservoirs. Give you an example of the most extreme case. Tuttle Creek Lake Reservoir in Manhattan has lost over 50% of its capacity to sedimentation. In fact, they're using federal funding right now to do a really innovative pilot project to try to help with some of that. But dredging is expensive. It's generally a lose-lose proposition. You got to find a place to put the material. It's extremely expensive to get the material out of there, and then you gain very little. We did a quick estimate for that material that's gone into Cheney Reservoir for dredging. We got to $100 million, and we only gained 1.5 months of water supply. Not a very good return on investment, not something we're going to pursue. So we think we're in pretty good shape there. There's only one silver lining in this drought, and that is the fact that we're making repairs, much needed repairs to the dam. This soil cement dam that was built, obviously when the reservoir was built, we haven't been able to make repairs to in 20 years. So we've got a great joint venture team with Wildcat Construction and Donlinger that's doing this work, making progress. We had the funding set aside. We had the plans approved. We had the permits approved through the Corps of Engineers. We were just waiting for the right timing because we don't want to lower the water level. They've got the whole first lift done. So that's bought some time in case the lake starts coming up. We do have a separation clause in the contract just in case it starts raining. We are not going to lower that reservoir. We'll come back and finish the repairs at another time. So that's been a really good deal to get that done. You really can't make out the counties here, but the governor updated the state emergency declaration, drought declaration just last week. Reno, Harvey, and Sedgwick County are the ones that are in red that are most impacted by this really localized drought impact. This is important for several reasons. What the governor's drought declaration does is it allows state lakes to be utilized for livestock and for firefighting where they normally wouldn't be. It's one of the two main reasons why this declaration happens. Also, I think from an optics perspective, from a public understanding perspective, it keeps us to the forefront of everybody understanding really the situation we're in. We hope that it maybe could eventually lead to some drought relief funds at the state or federal level. But it's good that the Kansas Water Office is on board with the governor's office too, of understanding our situation. When we came off of their last really significant drought we had in 2013, we developed what is our current drought response plan. And everyone's subject to this: residential, commercial customers, industrial, and all wholesale customers. And everybody's doing a great job following what we need to do. This plan was built to help us get through a Dust Bowl type drought over 8 years. Sounds pretty drastic, sounds pretty dire, but that's because it is at that point. Each stage of this drought is triggered by the 12-month running average conservation pool level of Cheney. We wanted to take away seasonal variations, not be hopping in and out. So when we got to below 90% of the conservation pool for 12 months in early 2023, we activated stage 1. Stage 1 encourages voluntary conservation of the community. It activated an internal conservation plan for the city of Wichita. We are a large organization, a lot of facilities, a lot of parks, a lot of playing fields, a lot of grasses. We have a very robust plan in place. At that point in time, we started watering once a week. We changed mowing schedules. We changed grass types. We were able to secure funding for a striker facility to replace all the grass fields with turf. Fire department washes their trucks less. Golf courses basically don't even wash the golf carts anymore. Everybody's on board. We even have an internal conservation team that's got representatives of all 15 of our departments, include 2 council members, who meet on a regular basis to continue to talk about conservation efforts. Our rebate program is in place, which is always in place, but I think it really helps the community with being able to get rebates on rain barrels and water efficiency devices. Kept going, got to August of last year when the 12-month running average dropped below 70%. We entered stage 2, which restricted watering to 1 day a week. No watering between 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. There are some exemptions. But this does come with a penalty and a fine schedule, at least for Wichita. So first violation for Wichita is a written warning. Second is $50 administrative fee on the water bill. Third, and everyone beyond that's $100. So when we went into this, even with stage 1, I sent out word to all of our wholesale customers and said, you need to let me know. By our agreement, wholesale water agreement, you have to follow the same rules. Everybody did a tremendous job and got on board. We didn't question how communities did it. As long as they could show they were going to one day a week watering. Derby splits the community in half, one Monday and Thursday maybe. I think maybe you do something similar here. Valley Center does the same thing. Everybody's done a tremendous job. We didn't know what was going to happen with this because we've never been in this situation before, at least not in my 30-year career with the city. So we had gone through July, significant water use, high temperatures, everybody's doing what they normally do. We had hoped to just stop that progress of using more water, maybe save 10%, at least reverse course. Very first week of restrictions, we dropped 35% in overall consumption. It was amazing. Did not expect that, but everybody got on board. There were plenty of people who did not like it. There's still plenty of people who do not like it, but I think everything considered, it's been pretty successful. Our goal right now is to stay out of stage 3. We are not projecting to get into stage 3 in 2025, but we do need to get some level of precipitation. Stage 3 eliminates all outdoor watering. At that point in time, we know we're going to start impacting businesses and likely put people out of business. Stage 2 and 3 exemptions include golf courses, car washes. Those businesses whose core economic activity revolves around water are exempt. Car washes have not been popular with the public. All of these new car washes have a recycle filtration system and recycle most of their water. I can't imagine how this many car washes stay in business, but that's neither here nor there, right? Our public golf courses in Wichita have done a great job to be able to conserve water. I don't know about the private ones, but they still employ folks. It's part of that. When we developed the drought response plan, Our first focus was to not impact businesses, or at least limit that. 20% of our annual water use each year can be attributed to outdoor irrigation. That's why that's the first place we focus. Stage 4 is the late stages of the drought. Let's hope that we never get there, because that requires businesses to start limiting the amount of water they use in their business practices. I don't even know what we would do at that point. The fines go up. We have the ability basically to shut people's water off, but we never want to get to that point. Our drought response plan, again, stage 2 with mandatory water restrictions, was once a week. And at one time I had a map on here for Wichita that didn't make sense. So you were right to take that off. It's all good. So really nothing to talk about here. Same thing I talked about before. From the very beginning, we wanted this to be about education and collaboration, not for this to be punitive. I don't have the staff to go out and try to find people that are watering. We asked the public to report it if they see violations, and they have. And so we've got our construction inspectors, our housing inspectors kind of out watching. We've got some staff that will take pictures and do whatever. We've had people in the public say that now you're making us rat out our neighbors. That was not the intent. The answer to that is if everybody does what they're supposed to, we don't even have to deal with that, right? It's really the easy answer. We hope that everybody gets on board. SaveWichitaWater.com has got tremendous resources. It's got this dashboard for Cheney. We wanted people to see what the level of Cheney is. We're still in stage 2. We've got irrigation education. We've developed a good partnership with K-State Extension Office, Sedgwick County Extension Office, how to properly water your yard. Generally, everyone waters, not everyone, a lot of people water their yards way too much already. If you're watering your yard 7 days a week, it's a weak root system. And we've heard from people, not surprisingly, when you went from watering 7 days a week to 1, your yard most likely won't go dormant. It's likely going to go into shock and die because it was used to so much water so quick, and now it can't find it. So we're trying to get people to change what they do, to change the culture going forward, to change their habits. I think the longer this drought goes on, folks are really realizing that they need to do something different. So we've got stuff in there about lawn care. Again, I mentioned our internal conservation plan, our water conservation rebate program. Well users are exempt. We asked everybody in Wichita put up a well sign so that we know. You can even print off a sign here, so that's good. So what are we doing for the future going forward, more so than what I talked about? I mentioned our ASR project. On the left is the Little Ark River. When the Little Ark River is high enough, we take the high flow off of the river, we treat it, we inject it back into the aquifer. That picture you see in the middle is the Little Ark River coming through the middle. The blue part is being the aquifer. There's a lot of stuff there, but what that is showing is we've got several ways of putting water back in the ground. One is through injection wells. They're not quite as effective, take more operations and maintenance. The picture on the right is of a recharge basin, large shallow hole in the ground that we treat that pump. We pump that treated water from the river into there, and it slowly migrates into the aquifer. It's been proven that it can find the hard to reach places a lot easier, so we can keep the aquifer fuller more often for all users. We were able to secure federal funding through the Bureau of Reclamation to fund part of that project. We're currently building 2 more recharge basins. So that's going to be a big deal to make sure that we still keep the aquifers healthy. Our new water treatment plant, one of the biggest values this plant brings to us compared to our existing plant. Our existing plant is limited on the amount of groundwater it can treat. It can generally only treat up to about 45% of the mix, the blend. It was some old technology with the filters, very costly to upgrade. This plant, when it's online, theoretically can treat 100% groundwater. So what that does then is it gives us a lot more opportunity to use more water out of the aquifers when Cheney is struggling. The picture on the left is overall of the campus. The picture on the top right is our filter building, that biggest building you see towards the back, larger than a football field. You can get some context of the bottom level of the pipe gallery. The filters are above that, our administrative building on the bottom. Things are going a little bit slower with this at this point than we had hoped. We're still in the performance and testing period. with the contractor. We plan to take ownership and have this plant operational by the end of the year. So this is where I'm most excited to talk about and where we're headed for the future as far as recycling and reuse and trying to utilize our current resources. There's a lot of information on here. Believe it or not, this is hard to see, and I'm trying to get this upgraded. This is a City of Wichita map. The green boxes are all of our wastewater treatment facilities. All entail, we've got about 30 million gallons a day of treated wastewater that we put into the rivers and streams and goes downstream. We are working on the ability to capture as much of that as we can, send it through advanced treatment, and create a new water source, which I'll show you in just a minute. Bottom right, where I mentioned Spirit Recycle, since 2015, we have been sending almost 1 million gallons a day of treated wastewater effluent from our main sewer treatment plant, that says plant 2, to Spirit. That offsets that amount of their potable use and provides some conservation. So as we move forward on this plan, we've hired a consultant, and I'll give you a few more details in just a moment. We are going to look at the opportunities for more industrial reuse, because there are companies out there who use a lot of water for their production processes and everything that they do for cooling. And if we can find a way to get the infrastructure to them, I think we can really find a way to cut down on their potable water use needs. One of the things that we're doing during this drought that I'm really proud of, and some innovation that we've done, to explain to you what this is, Pawnee, as on the top, the Big Arc River cuts through the bottom left. This is at Herman Hill Park, if you're familiar with this, between Pawnee, between Broadway and McLean. This is that blue and green area is what we call our water center. For many, many years now, we've been treating contaminated groundwater underneath the core of our city in Old Town and the North Industrial Corridor. We took that on ourselves, working with the EPA, so that the area would not be declared a Superfund site, which stifles development, allowed us to keep moving forward. We've been using basically some what we call decremental TIF funds for that. But what happens there is we've got over 1 million gallons a day of treated groundwater that goes into the river where that purple stream is. We have now set up a piping system. The bottom right, it's kind of hard to see. I should have got a better picture, as a silver and purple fire hydrant. We've got 2 of those fire hydrants set up there now. We're offering free water to contractors. We haven't seen as much use of this as I had hoped, but landscaping contractors in particular, as part of our permit, it's got to be contractors. We've said, come get all the water that you want, help you still water in landscaping. People are buying landscaping, people are selling landscaping. We're hoping that this helps going forward until we can get through this drought. But just one of the things that we can do from a recycling and reuse process. I mentioned Spirit. I wanted to show you this real quick. Upper left, yellow pin is our wastewater treatment plant. You can see the big arc running through there, Interstate 135. The yellow pin to the right is Spirit. They paid for the infrastructure for all of this to be built. And again, we've got a contract with them to supply over 1 million gallons a day. Picture on the right is the pump station that is at our wastewater treatment plant. We want to do more of this. We want to look for opportunities for more industrial reuse. Great way to save water. This is the thing that we're really, really pushing for. This is going to take some time. It's going to be expensive, but we've hit the ground running with this. And so this is really the future of recycling and reuse, and what we talk about with direct potable reuse. It's probably hard for you to see that picture on the left, but what that does is depict the water cycle in Wichita. At the top shows our raw water sources, Cheney and the Equus beds, going through our water treatment plant, being distributed out to residential and commercial properties. What comes out of those facilities goes to our wastewater treatment plants at the bottom, dumps into the river, which you can see right there by that Ark River sign, downtown Wichita. Picture on the right is that same thing at our main wastewater treatment plant at the south end of Wichita. It's 25 million gallons a day, treated wastewater that's going downstream. We're working with Department of Ag, Division of Water Resources, just met with them yesterday to understand how much of the water rights we have. We think we've got most of it, because when you look at water rights, everyone's downstream of someone, right? And the way water rights are developed over the years, you've got to maintain minimum stream flows. There may be people downstream that historically have counted on some of that flow. We don't think it's much, but we're working through that part. So if we can assume that the majority of those water rights are ours, what we do then is upper left is that same facility. We capture that treated wastewater. We run it through this multi-barrier advanced treatment and purification process, and we put it into the system. Direct potable reuse is fairly new. One of the newest facilities being built is in El Paso, Texas. Not every state even has regulations that allow direct potable reuse, including Kansas. Kansas does not. So we want to lead the way and help develop regulations that allow this to happen. Our city council approved a consultant contract and initial funding last week. Yesterday, we went to Topeka. I took staff. Councilmember Tuttle went with us. She's been a big champion for water. We met with KDHE to kick off this discussion about developing regulations. We also met with DWR to talk about the water rights. So we've hit the ground running. We're starting to set aside funding. We're looking at federal funding. We're going to begin a very robust public engagement process. This is what I'm going to be talking to our wholesale customers about here in a couple of weeks. I'm about to wrap this up, so thank you for bearing with me. Other things that we're doing is working with the development community, in particular Wichita Area Builders Association, to see what we can do about changing habits and culture again in the future. I've got a fescue yard. I've got a well, but I only water it once a day. And right now it's pretty green, right? But we've gotten just the right amount of rains. Fescue's defaults. Everybody wants fescue. Everybody wants to water it. We're asking developers if they would consider to start looking at more drought tolerant developments and promoting those. We're starting to hear from developments who want to do something different and they're looking for expertise. As we entered into stage 2 with drought restrictions, we heard from homeowners and HOAs who said, we've got covenants, they've got to keep your grass green, what are we supposed to do? HOA covenants do not take precedent over local ordinance. And so we sat down with a lot of HOAs and asked them to get on board and try to find a way, because there's no need during restrictions for an HOA to be fining someone for not watering enough, because if they water more, we're going to fine them too. Nobody wants that, right? I think we're gaining some ground. I've heard from a lot of people who really do want to do things different. And the biggest thing is the HOAs have got to get on board. We're looking at our landscape ordinance for the city and making sure we're being very prudent about promoting xeriscaping, drought tolerant materials. There is opportunities, I think, for reuse within most developments. A lot of folks live in developments that have water built in. Most of that's for water quality requirements through the state. My brother lives in a large development in Jacksonville, Florida. In Jacksonville, by law, all irrigation systems have to be recycled, reused water. So they've got big areas that they pull water out of their own developments for irrigation. Those are the types of things that are going to take some time, but we want to start heading in that direction. Last thing is looking at what other communities are doing. Oklahoma City for many years now has been on, not many, but for some years now, has been on an alternate day watering because of drought, because of issues with their distribution system. Even side waters on even days, odd side on the odd days. I think this is where we're going to head in Wichita. If I had to guess, and what I've talked to our city council, I don't want to speak for them, but my recommendation is that we get away from allowing watering 7 days a week as we start to come out of this drought, which we will at some point, which, brings me back to saying we've all got to change. We've got to look at this differently going forward. When we went into stage 1 of the drought restrictions in January of 2023, I don't think anybody would have guessed that we'd be having this discussion right now and still be in this situation. So we're going to get rain at some point in time. This is going to get better, but we just don't know how long it's going to be. So thank you for your time. I know it's a lot of information. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I've got 2
So,
questions.
yeah, let me ask a couple real quick, and then I'll let you go. One of the issues that I've had with the stages that you've developed is you don't give targets for us, for water users of Wichita Water. So we kind of looked on your website and said, okay, you said you wanted 10% reduction. So that's kind of what we said our target was. And then I think at stage 3, it's a 25% reduction. So we set our target kind of like that. But we don't have firm direction from City of Wichita what your expectation is. We're just guessing from those website postings, and that's kind of puts us in a precarious situation. Are we meeting what you need? Now, I know you said overall everything's great, but what's your thought on that?
So I think we may have given a little bit of a misleading message when we started, when we were hoping to just save some amount. Here's the easy answer. There is no target. We're trying to save absolutely the most water that we can, and that's by watering 1 day a week. Now, granted, there's people who have said, fine, I'm going to water for 24 hours, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. I don't think most people are doing that. We don't have a target, and I can't give you one. And again, intent was not to create any confusion. We're trying to save as much water as we can. When the plan was originally developed, the hope was, and I could probably find it in that plan. The goal was to cut outdoor watering use by 50% overall. Right now, especially trying to stay out of stage 3, we're trying to save all the water we can. There's no target. It's 1 day a week watering period. Whatever that ends up, that's the best that we can do. And I hope that helps. And I do appreciate that comment. We've had others ask that too, but we never set out to say, let's try to meet this number. We said you can only water 1 day a week.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Welch.
The Aquafire project, is that still running, or
Well, it is.
does
It
it shut
is.
off and on? How's
It
it
only
controlled?
runs when the Little Ark River's up. So it has not. We have not run it yet this year because we're impacted by what's happening upstream. The thing that we can hope for during this drought is to still get a lot of rain upstream that feeds Little Ark, and which we've seen in the past because we'll pull water off there anytime that we can, keep the aquifer full. We haven't run it this
So
year.
that's kind of a manual process to turn that off and on, or?
Yeah, well, it is. It's automated, but it is by our staff to activate it when the water level gets to a certain elevation. Yeah.
Okay. The other question is about the recycling. Since the sewer treatment plants are downhill, do you have to pump it all the way back uphill to use it? Or which would imply you have to build a bunch of pipeline, or?
You implied right. It's not ideal how our setup is. Derby is very interested in reuse. And so they're going to set themselves up really good by building their new water treatment plant right across the river from their sewer treatment plant. And we don't have that opportunity right now. Ideally, it's 15 miles from our main sewer treatment plant to our new water treatment plant, but you're right. It's uphill. It's big pipe. It's going to be expensive. The reason why we're undertaking this study and analysis now is to look what our options are to see what's feasible. We've got a lot of space on that campus where our main sewer treatment plant is. It would be nice to do something right there and try to get piped into the distribution system, but we're going to limit on the amount that we can get. So we're going to look at all the options we've got. We're going to do some pilot projects along the way at some of our smaller facilities and see how it works. It's a long road ahead. It's an expensive proposition. The project in El Paso is $300 million. But El Paso is probably even a little different than us. And they're at a point that's really one of their last options. So you hit it right. There's a lot ahead of us. There's some challenges, and that's what we're digging in to look at.
Okay. And one comment, I appreciate the website, the Save Water, I can't remember what it was named.
SaveWichitaWater.com.
Yeah, because I'm curious all the time how Cheney is doing and whether or not we're getting close to another restriction level.
Yeah, I
So I
appreciate that
appreciate
too.
that.
I look
I
at
think
it
it's-
5 times a day, even though I try to tell myself to quit looking at it.
I looked at it today, it was like 7.8, but that's because of
Hey,
the rain
you know
last
what?
night. So that's
There
good.
was, I'll tell you what's rare. Generally, there's no inflow. If you look at that page, you can see what the inflow is. It's almost always nothing. So it's exciting when you actually see water coming in.
We're actually looking at it at Wildcat for a different reason, because we're working on the dam and don't want the water to come up too fast.
So I do have a couple of questions, or at least one comment. Chisholm Creek Utility Authority, which is we're a partnership with Park City on. We have a water treatment plant and a wastewater facility right there on the same site. So it's kind of a golden place to kind of do some of these reuse projects, but I don't know what kind of discussions you're having with anybody about that. And it might be good that we bring them involved in some of that discussion so that we can actually learn some things and maybe do some things. I don't know if we can or not, but
I
might be
I think
worth
it'd be great. The Kansas Department of Health and Environment staff that we're working with, they recommend that most everybody look at this as a last resort, mostly from the context of cost. We can figure out the treatment technology. I think we can get the public engaged and hopefully understanding this is the right thing to do or a good thing to do. And that's a great thought. And the same thing I mentioned about Derby. If you've got, we have a wastewater treatment plant down by the airport that's been shuttered for some time for a variety of reasons. There was a large economic development project that was being discussed down in that area on South Tyler Road. We were looking at the idea of possibly bringing that plant back online because just a mile away and much more cost effective. You know, they would send all their water to that plant and turn around and send it right back. I think it's worth a discussion. Based on our discussions with the state yesterday, I think it'd be good for them to hear that there could be other opportunities to help nobody can do anything until these state regulations are developed.
True.
And so I appreciate that, Mayor, and I do want to come back to that. So,
Okay. The other is we are looking at expanding some of the water reuse for irrigation. Currently, Willow Bend Golf Course uses reuse water effluent from CCUA,
right.
but that pipe is running right along 53rd and right along Rock Road. So we're looking at some possibilities of expanding some of that. I don't know if you're aware of, I haven't seen any and I've not really investigated any, but we'd like to know if there are any grants that are out there that could help mitigate some of that infrastructure costs to do those things. And if, just a collaborative effort that if you know of something, we can pass along or utilize or whatever.
So, as part of our effort with the consultant, we've hired a CDM Smith. They've got a lot of national experience on this. They've got some team members that focus on funding only. So a big part of our effort is to apply for federal funds, particularly through the Bureau of Reclamation. So I'll keep that in mind, Mayor. Great, because there are some opportunities. I will tell you, things are a little bit more in limbo right now than they have been with where things are at in Washington, D.C. with grant funding, especially if you talk about anything related to sustainability or we have to be careful of what we say now because those are the grant programs that are getting cut. We're looking for them regardless, and I'll let you know. I certainly don't mind doing that at all because I recognize the value in all of us trying to head towards the same place. So I appreciate you asking that.
Thank you.
Gary, I was going to ask a question, kind of follow up on the CCUA discussion. CCUA is a regional plant, serves two cities. And I know we have a relationship with the city. They have a relationship with the city. I'm excited to see where your guys' process goes and how that maybe can be partnered with that regional facility, both from the standpoint of what Mayor talked about, our ability to maximize use of reuse and maybe some additional future investment if it's further down the line, probably on the DPR. My guess is at some point it doesn't make sense just because of the total volume of water. It doesn't make sense to build an advanced treatment plant, but it'd be interesting to see where you guys head, and we're excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's a big hurdle just to get past the regulation part first, because KDHE said and I didn't quite follow this, but based on the cost of the effort to develop the regulations, it triggers legislation. We had originally been told, and I don't think that's a deal breaker. We had originally been told all you need to do is develop state regulation. It also includes legislation. Not because of that, but I will tell you that our city council is on board. They're talking to our South Central Kansas delegation. We're talking to our federal delegation, to our federal lobbyists, making sure everybody understands what our goals here and how serious we are about trying to make this work. So.
And then one other question I had was you mentioned a little bit about ASR earlier. How is the Equus beds doing throughout the drought? Is it maintaining decently well?
I don't know if you caught early on in the slide, it's currently at 92% full. which I think is pretty amazing for the drought that we've been through. And that has a lot to do with what we've done with ASR. We're going to start seeing a drop if the Ark River doesn't get to a point that we can run ASR and put water back in. But we've done a lot to really protect that. And again, we're building some additional recharge basins now so that when we do get to capture that water from the river, and we will at some point, we're going to really optimize filling the aquifer back up.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions and comments, I guess. As one is reusing sewer water. I mean, people put their Drano, all their drugs that they flush, all that goes in. And I don't really have a lot of confidence that the authorities, I know you've got an RO system in there, which, but I'm just wondering how well they get all of those nasty things, hazardous chemicals that come from these processing plants, especially Derby with Boeing down there and all the stuff they flush to drink that water. I question if we're not going to have more issues with the high incidence of children with all kinds of defects that we're experiencing now, which they're going to try and clean up. So that's why a big worry. And I've heard that from a lot of people that is one that nobody wants to drink sewer water, even though it's processed. But then you look at cases where they had petroleum products in the water, and the experts said the water was okay to drink. And then people, and this was in Park City several years ago, if you remember, well, we can light the water. What? So there was fuel from the Derby refinery pipeline that was getting into the water in Park City, and it was lightable. So, maybe the experts are smarter now, but that's a big concern for me on getting more water. I don't know how easy it is, but I know you don't want to dig a deeper hole for Cheney. Can you raise the sides? I know it's going to impact people with a dock. You may have to make it higher. Can you raise the walls of Cheney by 3 feet or 5 feet? I mean, that's a lot of water, especially at the top, but I don't know if that's even an option.
So
Anyway, those are my comments.
I'll go back to your first question comment. It's
Sure.
not unusual. Give you context on something first, and then tell you how this would work and how it's worked in other states and why we know it can work. Everyone is downstream from someone else, right? If you live in New Orleans and you drink the water in New Orleans, it's been treated 11 different times literally by the time it gets to New Orleans. I don't want to diminish what you said, but it's this water. It's other people's wastewater that's been treated. It's had those things go through. It's been put back in the river. It's had those things go back through it. It's been treated and put back in the river. People are drinking the water that's come from wastewater facilities already. People upstream from us are doing that. Colorado and Texas and California and Oklahoma have developed direct potable reuse regulations. The regulations are extremely stringent. Public health is absolutely the priority. I have you don't have to believe me. We have all the confidence that when regulations are developed in Kansas, this water that comes out of here will be cleaner than the water that's coming out of our water treatment plant right now. I absolutely have zero doubt about that. There are things that we do in Wichita already that help with some of the things you talked about from industrial. We have a very robust industrial pretreatment program that requires a lot of our industry to do many things within their facilities to limit those. We don't even let most of that come out of the facility anymore. And so we're way ahead of a lot of communities on what comes to our wastewater treatment plant already. That's part of our public engagement process. You asked a great question. As we go forward, we're going to talk to the public about that, and we're going to show them what these other programs look like that all in will help us get to that point and help people feel more comfortable about it. You don't have to believe me tonight. It's a good question. I'm confident that will get to that point. What was your second part about that?
Oh, lifting the height of the walls around Cheney, just make it higher, not deeper.
It's not as much water as you would think. in the grand scheme of things. It's just not. But we have it. It's extremely expensive. First thing that has to happen is through the Corps of Engineers is to get permitted. And with the impact that that has on flood stage and people downstream and everything else. So we have looked at that. I can't tell you what the numbers look like, but it's extremely, extremely expensive. It does and can impact the other users of the reservoir. But good question. We're trying to make sure we don't leave anything on the table, that we're looking at all of our options. It's a little bit like the dredging. It's just not as much water as most people would think. If you can build another reservoir the same size of Cheney, then we're talking about making a difference, right? But the problem is with that too, and why a resource like this can be so valuable is because it's always going to be there. When you go through droughts like we're going through now, and you've got two reservoirs now that have half the amount of water in them that Cheney currently does. You didn't gain anything in that context. So we're trying to balance all of our resources and all of our potential resources. We've looked at multiple places to where we could find additional water resources potentially and pipe them to Cheney. The question's been asked. So we could take that water and pipe it to Cheney. It's a long ways. That question gets asked a lot. Why don't you put it back over to Cheney? We still have to treat it, but it wouldn't require state regulation. We could get permit approval to treat this just a little bit different than we do now. Pump it 25, 30 miles to Cheney. Might kind of work. The problem is there's no value in it when Cheney is full, and it will be full again. If you look at the history of Cheney, there's a lot of years that we're spilling water over the reservoir and it's going out to the floodway. At that point in time, there's no value like you do have for direct water reuse. So good questions, and I do appreciate that. We've got a long way ahead of us. We've got a lot of work to do, a lot of public engagement, and we'll sort through those types of things.
Well, we appreciate the information. Thank you very much. And
thank you for your
we
time.
need to work more collaboratively
Yeah.
on this stuff.
Please
Make
let me
sure
know
we're
if I'm
working.
easy to find, if you ever need
Yeah.
anything else, and we'll be in touch. I appreciate the questions that you asked, Mayor. Okay. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank
Gary.
you. Have a good night. Okay. Next item on the agenda is citizens' concerns. Are there any citizens who have concerns they'd like to raise to the council? No cards? Okay. All right. If not, I'll go on to council member reports. Mr. Dean, do you have a report for us?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a few things. Thank you. First, I wanted to mention that I finished my Smart Growth America Champions Institute last week. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Got to learn a lot from professionals in that space, along with other communities' efforts to better plan, design, and construct infrastructure to better serve publics with safety and efficiency for all modes of transportation. So look forward to applying that. Also wanted to give a heads up that next Thursday, and I'm sure our city manager is going to touch on this too, WAMPO and KU Transportation Center was going to host a VRU, which is Vulnerable Road User Training here in City Hall, and do a road safety assessment also as well out at 53rd and Woodlawn. So you do have to register for that, but I do still believe that's open. So if anybody's interested in that, I know that information's been passed out. So, and then lastly, I wanted to mention that I visited Eagle Lake Park, spent some time with the family and some friends on Thursday last week, enjoying the beautiful spring weather. And I counted a couple dozen kids, several families enjoying the new park, dozens walking by on the path. It turned out great. And I just wanted to thank city staff that had a lot to do with getting that planned and executed, and just looking forward to seeing people get to utilize that, and also seeing the engagement that we're getting already on the relocation of the volleyball, which will be coming soon. So anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schmidt.
Oh, well, I was just driving around the just south of 45th and west of Woodlawn, just looking at all the areas where I think it's APAC is doing the mill and overlay, and a lot of the streets that are done, those looked really, really good. So I'm hoping all the citizens are appreciative of that. It looks real good. I've was riding my bikes through there quite often, and oh, this is so much smoother than it was. So kudos to those guys. I know they're still working on it, but it looks good from what I've seen.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Welch.
I'd like to take the last opportunity to remind people to sign up to run for city council. If you have any interest, you need to contact the Sedgwick County election office and get your stuff completed by the end of the month, basically. And we still have only one person that signed up so far. So there's three seats available. We got 2 seats open right now that nobody's even running for. So somebody needs to sign up, please.
All right. That it?
I'm done. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Move on to mayor's report. So on May 7th, I attended the Kansas Mayor's Forum in Humboldt, Kansas. Learned a lot of other communities that are having similar issues with shared roads as Bel Aire is experiencing. So that was interesting to learn. May 10th, I attended the Sedgwick County Association of Cities at Park City. Keachai Mayor Ashley Coleman was elected as chair for the next year. Justice Shore, the Clearwater Council president, was elected as vice chair. And Dr. David Gu of May City Council member is secretary treasurer. These are 2-year terms beginning on July 1 of this year. May 13th, I attended the WAMPO Transportation Policy Board meeting, and the WAMPO decided not to pursue the grant for Safe Streets for All, a program under the bipartisan infrastructure law, due to added requirements to manage construction of approved projects. Managing constructions is something WAMPO does not do. So individual communities may apply for those grants. You may remember that we presented with the Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2050, which is also called MTP 2050. WAMPO approved this plan, but noted that due to new guidelines from the United States Department of Transportation Secretary, the plan will be updated in the next couple of months to comply with the new requirements handed down by the Secretary Duffy. Most of these requirements will remove several issues that were addressed in the MTP 2050 plan. So on May 14th, I attended the Utility Advisory Committee meeting. That's UAC. Unfortunately, there's not a quorum for this meeting, so no actions could be taken. They did discuss the water conservation reporting, a field trip to Chisholm Creek Utility Authority, and ideas to learn if there is interest in a city-sponsored composting program. Earlier today, the CCUA was advised by the KDHE administrative order is being revised to have substantially completion of the wastewater upgrade by October 31st of 2027 and full compliance by May 1st of 2028. This coincides with the construction milestone CCUA received on May 5th. So a new survey is out concerning the sand volleyball court and where to locate it. So if you're online or Facebook, look at that survey up and give your input. And some may have heard that I have put my name in the hat for Kansas House Legislative District 85. This position was held by Patrick Penn for the last 5 years. From what I see, there are 4 very qualified candidates. Should I be selected, I do not plan to resign as mayor of Bel Aire. Per a 1980 Kansas Attorney General's opinion, the mayor of city of second class and state representatives are compatible offices and do not constitute a conflict of interest. So my prayer is that the good Lord will guide the committeemen and committee women to select that person the Lord has determined to best serve the common good. Remember, Memorial Day is this weekend, particularly on Monday, and please honor those who have served for our freedoms, especially those who have died. I'll ask our city attorney for her report. I think she's online.
I am. Thank you. Good evening.
There you are.
I was going to briefly talk about the updated fire code. The Sedgwick County Fire District sent their new 2024 fire code amendments to Bel Aire approximately mid-April. If council were to adopt the updates, that means council would need to repeal the current version in the city code and then adopt an ordinance replacing it with the new 2024 edition of the International Fire Code. The new updates are somewhat extensive. What are they? Basically, the key highlights are talking about trying to keep all of the revisions similar to what is being done regionally. They do talk about specific items like controlled burning. They talk about burning regulation amendments, property lines, trying to keep things and combustibles away for certain distances. Another specific area they talk about is trying to be consistent with the language for jurisdictions that use different versions. All of it will be very helpful. The ordinance is going to be approximately anywhere between 14 to 20 pages. I've spoken with staff, and it appears as though we are ready to make those updates. Of course, that will go in front of council with an explanation of what the highlights are and what changes, if any, will be done for this jurisdiction. For your information right now, if you go to the website and you look at the Bel Aire City Code, you'll see in Chapter 13, Article 1, that the fire code references a 2012 edition in addition to a 2013 edition. So just giving an update to council that that is a task that is begin worked on by staff, and hopefully council will be able to see that ordinance at the very first meeting of July. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that information. Move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder, offices will be closed on Monday. If anybody's looking to honor for Memorial Day, to honor those who served or brave men and women who gave their lives for our country. I had the opportunity to talk to the Lions Club last week, and I just wanted to give them a shout out. Such a good organization, do so much for our city. I did see a lot of familiar faces, so if you're out and about in the community, let them know about the Lions Club. I'm sure they'd like some fresh faces around as well. One big thing that happened last month with our new ERP system, I know I've been talking about it for a year, but now we're starting to see some of the fruits of its labors. At the end of the month, we have water shutoffs. We average anywhere from 100 to 120 shutoffs. With the new text system, with the new easy use, we were at 45 last month. What does that mean for staff? Cuts the day in half for a lot of our public works employees and our staff. So really starting to see, and I'm going to report every time we find these little savings of time savings that due to this initiative we took on. Keachai Brush Site available to Bel Aire residents. It's open the second Saturday from 8 to noon every month. I did talk to the Keachai city manager or city administrator today. We didn't get a lot of calls about brush being with the latest storm, so they're not going to open it up. But if there is a lot of brush, just call City Hall and Keachai will help us with that if we want to make a special trip, anybody. It's kind of hard to post, but if you hear of anything, let me know and we'll be able to take care of it. Lastly, with all the tornado warnings and everything, just so you know, for your comfort, talked to Marty on Sunday, talked to Chief and Marty yesterday. Every time we see weather like that come, Marty's got the guys ready with the standard procedure. I know we take it for granted sometimes, but just want to remind you that we have staff here 24/7, and we're dedicated to serve the community anytime some type of severe storm tries to hit. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. We appreciate the readiness of the staff for those kind of events, and hopefully we'll never have a event that causes significant issues for us. So move on to ordinance resolutions and final actions. The first item under 11A is request by Waste Connections for 2% increase in solid waste and recycling services. So we have an agreement with Waste Connection that was approved in 2016 and allows for Waste Connections to request a 2% fee increase annually. Included in your packet is a letter requesting such an increase, as well as the agreement. Council approved a 1.5% increase in 2017, nothing in 2018, 2019, or 2020, a 1% in 2021, and a 2% in 2022, 2% in 2023, 2% again in 2024. So Mr. Herschel West with Waste Connections is here to present and answer questions. Mr. West.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thanks for inviting me to this meeting. It's that time of the year again. So we're here to request a 2%. First of all, I wanted to ask to see how the service has been. If anybody has any questions or concerns, I think we've done a quality job. I haven't heard much. I know we just did the cleanup this past weekend.
Yeah.
And
The only concern I have is I've noticed a little bit of migration to start to pick up stuff at 5:30 in the morning, which is, I think the contract says you're not supposed to start till 6. So I've observed that they are coming around at 5:30 or 5:45, something like that. So that's the only concern I have, and I don't know if anybody else has heard of anything other than that.
I'll make note of that and get with our operation team.
Okay.
Let them know.
No, I think they've been doing great, at least in my neighborhood. Even when they have extra stuff, they've been really good. So,
Yeah.
and in the snow, which is a real pain for everybody,
Yeah.
I thought they did great trying to get through all that and making it work. And yeah, so I thought they did a good job.
Well, thank you for bearing with us because I know there was probably a day or two where we had to delay service by a day due to the weather. So we appreciate your patience, and we'll get your trash picked up. A lot of people do call in and complain, hey, my trash didn't get picked up, but we'll get it dumped.
I think most people are pretty amenable to that. Just the communication, keep it open, and I think we're working through that, and that's going pretty well. So,
Yeah, it's the communication is a big thing. If you guys are having road construction, you guys are calling us, letting us know in advance about
Yeah.
roads that'll be closed. So
we only have a few incidents like that, right?
Yeah, that's going over a lot
Right.
of that going on.
What's the
Wondering how
status?
Puritan and Stratford are causing you grief. What you're going to do to handle that?
Somebody's cell phone? Is there somebody's cell phone too close to a microphone?
I need mine.
There
Yeah.
we go.
Okay, there you go. Maybe
With
that's it. Thank you.
roads being torn up, Puritan and Stratford right now are not very passable to a trash truck, and I was wondering how you guys were handling that. Have you rescheduled them to later in the week, or? And Memphis was ripped out today, I think. So there's several places where I know you guys are going to have trouble getting to.
Usually, if I don't hear anything from operations, because usually they're the first ones to call me and say, hey, we're not able to get down this road and service, I hear it. And I haven't heard anything, so we must be dumping the trash.
If they can get it done within a week, they might get lucky and they'll just go inside the cycle.
Well, I'm afraid that what's going to happen is there's a whole bunch of people that are going to have trash out tomorrow, and it's not going to get picked up.
Yeah, I don't know when they pick up on the south side of 45th. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, my house is tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Well, again, we want to thank you for your business. It's for another year.
sure.
Like I said, we're requesting a 2% increase. Kind of the same spiel I've done for the last few years. CPI is, I think it's 2.4% this year, just to kind of give you a comparison.
Right.
So we're not even asking, for a CPI increase. I got the dates down here. I do have a typo. I just noticed it. It says June 2023. It should be June 2024. Those are the current rates. And if we are allowed the 2%, shows the request of what the rates will be. And if we are allowed the 2%, the total increase that we've gotten or in the past 8 to 9 years is $1.38. So that's the total increase for trash and recycle, $1.38 over the last 9 years. And for utility, that's a pretty good increase, pretty good price.
Yeah. So one of the observations I had, I know you talk about the CPI being 2.4%, but I looked back and saw that at least regular fuel, regular gasoline, because I keep record of this for my own personal needs, has declined 40% or 40 cents a gallon over the last year. And I surmise that diesel fuel has done similar like that. Have you given any consideration to that and how that affects your operations versus CPI? Because CPI is everybody in the country.
Yeah, CPI is everything. I haven't, so I couldn't tell you what percentage of that 2.42 is fuel. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I don't think any of that's fuel, to be honest. Our contract with you expires next year. When do we start renegotiating, or are you even going to want to work with us again?
Of course, we want to work with you. Yes. If that's something we can probably sit down here in the next few months, and if you guys want to negotiate something, we'll be glad to work with the city.
Yeah. I think we do need that. Of course, that's work with Mr. Henry to start with, and then we'll work from there and see what
We can do
we
that.
work out with. Okay.
Not a problem.
Okay.
So if there's no more questions for Mr. West, does somebody want to make a motion?
I will motion to approve a 2% rate increase for solid waste and recycling services fees paid by the city to Waste Connections effective June 1st, 2025, as presented in the First Amendment agreement, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Schmidt. I got a conflicting report here. Mr. Henry, please clarify. One is he says effective July 1 of 2025, and another one says June 1 of 2025.
Yeah, so it'd be June 1.
It is June 1.
And we did it with an update. We had July.
Okay.
The
All right. I just want to make sure that we were talking about the right
Yep.
date. So
Yep.
that's fine. So he made the motion for June 1. That's great. Okay. Very good.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I'd like to make a comment too before we vote.
Sure.
So I went back and looked, the rates over the 8 years had went up about it was 8.5% over that time. And so if we approved a 2% increase, that would be 10.5% over 9 years, or just under 1.25%. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think that's fair, considering the service that you guys have provided. That's the reason I'll support the increase for 2% tonight.
Did you have something you want to say, Mr. Schmidt?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Very good. All right. If there's no more comments or questions, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 I hear 3 ayes. Any opposed? The motion carries 3-0.
Can we vote both ways?
Not normally.
Thank you.
But
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Thank you. And yeah, we look forward to seeing the new contract here soon. All right. Thank you. So the next item is change order 3 from APEC. The asphalt mill and overlay repairs were approved by council for several streets as part of the 2025 street maintenance plan. Following the milling of Parrington Street from Woodlawn to just east of Stratford, several soft spots were discovered. At the same time, soft spots were discovered on Stratford between Odessa and Parrington. The cost of addressing these issues is shown on your packets as a change order number 3. And Stevens, our city engineer, he's here to make a presentation and answer questions.
So kind of, as the mayor said, we're here for change order 3, kind of going back a little bit. On the May 6th council meeting, we approved the change order that addressed Stratford from Danbury to Odessa. So this is just the block of Stratford North. The block of Stratford that is in this change order request had already been milled at the time and
Maybe
looked
that
to
one
be
too.
fine. Anytime you have a reduced pavement section that's open for any percentage of time, you run the risk of having issues, because we like that entire pavement section to support the traffic that's rolling over it. So we've had school buses, trash trucks, miscellaneous delivery vehicles, moving vans, etc. You can imagine the mix of vehicles that traverse the road, and several soft spots had opened up. I had asked at the time, so that was May 8th when I was notified. I went out May 9th, that very next morning, to take a look, and there was just too much there for me to recommend doing a patch of full depth replacement. Looking at the asphalt that was left there, there was a lot of what we call alligator cracking. And I observed a couple of large trucks going through it, and you could see the ground just going down and coming back up, pumping. So that made me concerned and made me recommend the full depth replacement. This is just kind of one of those situations that arise when you're doing any sort of reconstruction work or any sort of work in established neighborhoods. We don't have any history of what is in the ground currently. We don't have history of design. This is one of those that we did not do any pre-designed geotechnical corings or borings to figure out what is there. It just was not really cost effective at the time. So once I had kind of made my recommendation, the contractor said, "Can we start?" I told the contractor specifically, I and Stevens, city engineer, cannot give you approval. I will say that 99.9% of the time, this would be approved. However, I cannot guarantee and I cannot give you any authority, any approval authority. That's got to go through council. I said, if you desire to proceed ahead, you may. That is your own liability. That is your own risk. So there's no assumed approval from my perspective. APAC did go ahead and make the decision to move forward, given the history of the city and kind of the situation that we're in. They decided to go ahead and start that full depth repair. They did go ahead and dig down. They put the rock in so the road can be traversed and no further issues. Perryton, when I observed that street the same day I observed the Stratford, the south half was in not good condition, but kind of the middle part, mostly north, it looked great. There was the base of the pavement was solid. There was no cracking in it. To me, it didn't feel like it needed to be replaced. So that's why the recommendation is for that south piece. And then the very edge, that top 20 feet where we connect further, just north of Stratford, that also was deteriorated quite a bit and was actually looking a lot like the return that we had off of 45th on Hillcrest. There just wasn't a whole lot left. So I requested that get done as well. So that's kind of the history of it. With these type of projects, it's really difficult because you come into a situation, you don't really have a whole lot of choice in how you move forward. Waiting 2-3 weeks for a council is tough for contractors, especially in this climate. They're very busy, they're very booked. And if they left, I don't know when we'd get them back. So that's kind of the other piece of the picture that sometimes plays into contractors' decisions. If I have any hesitation, if it's a change order that is not strictly necessary, like the fire hydrant that we had over in Bel Aire Lakes, absolutely no, wait for council, because I do not have a degree of certainty whether this is going to go forward. Now, that degree of certainty in no way, shape, or form constitutes approval or any authorization moving forward, but it gives the contractor kind of some thoughts as to make their own decision with how to move forward.
So I got a couple questions. One is, do we know about the age of these roads?
I did not look that up. To my knowledge, there has never been any work done on these roads beyond the original installation.
No
So,
maintenance, no slurry seal or any of that kind of stuff? Huh?
I don't think so. There may
Okay.
have been some slurries, but I'm not sure.
The other is, in your observation, when you went out there on site, did you see any evidence of a water issue?
No, sir.
Okay, because I know that's higher elevation than the Woodlawn area.
Correct.
So it may not be there, but I just want to make sure that.
That's 100% on the top of my mind as well.
Yeah.
I did see a little bit of water standing in the gutter pan, but that was more than likely from watering the streets or kind of the dew in the morning. But yeah, I'm very cognizant of all the issues that we've had
I'm sure
on
you are.
Woodlawn and doing my best to avoid them at all possible. So that's where we're at. After the change order from May 6th, we had about $250,000 left in the budget. So this one is about $120,000. It's not quite half of what's remaining. We do have the entire area of Lawn Terrace that we're prepared to, or that is currently in our contract. As soon as I found out about these areas, I said, full stop. I'm getting a little scared here. Don't want to move forward and blow the budget. So APAC came back and offered to do some core drills, some core samples of the Lawn Terrace neighborhood. I was unavailable and at meetings when they were doing that, so I was not physically present. I do have pictures of all those core samples. APAC was not concerned about any of those. That being said, it is one spot, 2-inch core over the entire street. So that is certainly not a very good picture. And I know Mr. Henry, that's kind of something that he was hoping that we could talk about during the other issues, a portion of the meeting, and how to handle kind of change orders like this moving forward. At this point, we're going to proceed with the milling very carefully, slowly. They're going to do their own process, but we will be evaluating it as soon as things get uncovered just to see. So I really don't want to uncover more that I can afford to replace or that we can afford to replace and stay within the budget unless there's, other discussions with the council, which we would like to have towards the end of the meeting.
Okay.
And I actually looked it up on Sedgwick County mobile land records. Most of the homes on that stretch were built 78 to 80. So that's 45 years old
That was
plus.
before the
Because
city.
the roads would have went in before. Just
That was before it was a city. So we
right.
we had
I just
no
wanted to put that out there.
jurisdiction.
These are really old roads.
Yeah.
And then one other comment I had, do you just kind of going through this? I mean, obviously we've got a lot of older roads in the city that we've done some maintenance, but we're going to be doing more and more of this. Is this just a thing where you chalk it up to on age of roads? Maybe the ag base in these areas was little to none. Maybe the asphalt. Is this really just a thing we're probably just going to keep seeing a little bit in these older areas? The construction just wasn't, one, maybe as robust as some of our new subdivisions, and two, they're just old roads.
Yes to all of the above. At the time of construction, I don't have access to what they put in, but the quote unquote Wichita section that we have been using for the residential areas, that is fairly new with that aggregate base, or I should say the reinforced aggregate base with the geogrid
Right.
and then the rock and then the asphalt or concrete on top. That is fairly new. And as far as I'm aware, Wichita has had very good luck with it. We've had very good luck with it. We've had to make a few tweaks. We don't use reinforced rebar in the concrete anymore. We use a fiber reinforced concrete, and that's held up to cracks a lot better. We've tweaked our jointing plans a little bit where you saw that concrete to control the cracking. And all those things do help. It's kind of one of those, nobody has that perfect solution, and you just kind of learn and tweak as you go.
Right. And one more final comment, and drainage just wasn't designed the same back in these older neighborhoods. Most of our newer neighborhoods are being paid by specials or putting in an improved storm drain system. So there is a level of surface drainage that's going to seep into the ground that's not going to run off down the curb and gutter. And we're trying to fix those areas. I know every time we have a chance, so we
Right.
don't have ponding water, but there's only so much you can really do in some of those areas because you have to tie into existing grades. And I just kind of wanted to say that too. I think that's another aspect of water drainage that most people don't think about, that it goes somewhere. It's going to seep into the ground if it doesn't run off.
Correct.
So
But to your point, the Pearsons neighborhood has no storm sewer in it. It
All
has
surface.
no other drainage, and those streets were fine. They did not
Sure.
find any soft spots, and that
Yeah.
is right adjacent to Woodlawn
Right.
with very similar site conditions. So,
yeah, it's kind of a,
Yeah.
I don't
Mixed
know. I
bag.
think it's probably kind of a similar kind of how things were built, what pavement section was used.
Right.
And who knows, there may have been a spill of something in some of these areas and they may not have gotten it compacted just right. It's really hard to say going back.
so I appreciate you thinking about this process because we're going to see, it seems like we're going to see more of it as we get into these kind of street projects. So thank you.
So speaking of GeoGrid, is this proposal here, does it include GeoGrid?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And I personally saw it on both streets.
Great.
I have not been out to Perryton since they have
Okay.
it pulled up, but I did see it out on both sections of Stratford.
Thank you.
I've noticed, even with the newer design, we have a soft spot created on my way toward Woodlawn from my place. So I think it's because of all the trucks going into the new development there in Iron Gate. And so there is in a corner now, I've just noticed all of a sudden I got this dip, and that's all new,
Yeah.
fairly new road. So I don't know that it holds up better. I hope it will, but that was a concern. It was actually just to the south of where that concrete was replaced right there in Iron Gate, remember, right next to the pipeline or over the pipeline? Yeah, it's just to the south of that.
Okay.
Probably, I'd say maybe 50 yards, and there's a soft spot created now. All of a sudden, I think it's the heavy traffic. But as far as these old areas, some of those roads probably should have been done many years ago. And so once it starts cracking, the water gets underneath, softens it up. Okay, that's expected. So no surprises on what we're finding. I'm actually impressed that as old as these are, there's not more of this that we have to do. So
Agreed.
I think it's just comes with the fact that the city was a little hard pressed for cash, couldn't fix some of the roads as soon as they could because of other things they had to pay. So I'm great to see it's getting them done now. I think it's all good, and let's just do it right. So
And Mr. Schmitz, if you could email either myself or Ted the location of
that
that,
spot, okay,
that spot,
I'll do
we'll
that.
take a look at it.
I don't think you mentioned what the street name was, but
I do
Anyway.
not remember the street.
Okay.
I just drive it. I don't look at the names.
It's the north-south connection between
It
Iron
is a
Gate.
north-south. Yeah, well.
I think I know where
yeah,
you're
I think I know
it's
what
a
you're talking
brand new
about.
area. It's a brand new area.
On
It's not-
probably on Highland.
but fairly-
Where concrete goes to asphalt. Asphalt's probably
Yeah,
starting.
Kappelman. Yeah, it's Kappelman, his area. And then it
That's all
curves
right.
around from Woodlawn and goes over into Iron Gate.
Okay.
It's
We
that
don't need-
road.
we don't need to fix it here.
That's
Just
fine.
send
I
an email.
understand. Well, you brought it up, whereas I don't.
I know. I just wanted to make sure you knew
Yeah,
what the
if
street
you
name
could just
was.
send me a location, we'll definitely take a look
Yeah,
at that.
Thanks.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, I've got a lot of comments now that you guys are done.
Right.
First thing you mentioned was once you did the mill, that the street was not as stable. Can we close the roads between the mill and overlay to heavy traffic, maybe just the local citizens to get to their houses? I mean, that should only be a day or more, a day or two at the most, right?
Generally speaking, in this situation, we do need to have those roads open so the construction vehicles can get in and out. So I think that was part of it, as well as just kind of have it.
Well,
Just
you're
having
laying
it
blame
opened.
on the school buses and the trash trucks, and they're going to go down the road. So can we keep all heavy vehicles off except for the ones that have to be there?
That is probably going to be more of a question for the police chief, Mr. Atterbury, because that's going to be an enforcement issue. It's going to be difficult to, can it be done? Yes. Will folks using those vehicles pay attention? It's more of an enforcement issue.
Well, it sounds like we could handle that with a road closed to local traffic type scenario.
It's certainly a
And-
possibility.
And the
that
people
we can
working on the road,
investigate.
they're going to go in there anyway, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. So that's an option that I'd like to consider. You mentioned that you had pre-checked some other streets and that we cannot afford another change order at this point. So are we going to just tear up a little bit at a time to make sure we don't have this problem, or it's limited to a small area? I mean, we can't go in there and let them mill the whole neighborhood and then come back, because that could be hundreds, $1 million easily at the price these things are going for, and we don't have that in the budget.
Right. And that's part of the reason for the discussion under the other issues this afternoon, or at the end of the meeting. But what my current direction is, well, at first it was just stop. And then after talking to Ted, we decided, and to PEC, we decided to kind of move forward slowly as far as only tear up like one street at a time. And then we can evaluate the street as soon as they're done milling it and getting it somewhat cleaned off.
All right. And you told them to proceed at their own risk, and I think we should have just said no. Because once we found that, and once they did all that, we now have no other option for what to do to that road except accept this change order. We can't talk about concrete or anything else. So we're shut out completely except for accepting this change order, because APAC, I was over there today, has done nothing except for half of the one block that we okayed the full depth replacement on. My opinion, they should have gone farther than that if they were working in good faith with this. That's just my opinion of APAC at the moment. Other thing is, you found this May 5th. We had a regular workshop the next week after that. We could have easily had a special meeting. We don't have to wait 2 weeks to talk about these items. What do we need, 2 days notice for a special meeting? I don't know the exact number of days.
Sure.
It's only a couple of
48
days.
hours.
And maybe that is the lesson learned we have, is we call a special meeting, understand that might be one of the options we have going forward, is just call a special meetings and call everybody in here if something
I'd
happens
have
like
much
that.
rather had a special meeting the Friday after this was found, if I had to, than to wait 2 weeks and see it all get torn up and not have any other options on the table that we could even discuss.
And I think the timetable, what was it, last Friday
We
for
found
this
it last
particular one.
Thursday,
Last Thursday, yeah, or
or the
If you
Thursday
ju-
after the
If you just
council
found
meeting.
it last Thursday, you were not paying attention to me because I told you that road had problems at the last council meeting. That I had gone and driven through there and I saw those soft spots. As soon as they did the mill part, I could see that there were soft spots. So nobody was listening when it was first brought up.
I must have misunderstood where the location that you'd said.
I said Perryton and everybody questioned me why I was even talking about Perryton, like I had the wrong street name. So that's part of what's annoying me here. Is this is not a new emergency issue. We've had 2 weeks to deal with it. And like I said, we had no other option for repair. We've been wanting to put cement back in. I don't know how much that would have cost. I don't know if once we put the rock layer down, we can still put cement on top of it,
We should be able to, yes.
but we don't have a bid for it. So, and now we don't want to leave the road messed up like that because it's already moving. It got wet last night and I could already see ruts in it today from trucks going down it while it was damp. And so I don't know anything about how well it should compact and what you should be able to drive on it when it's a little bit damp. We only got half an inch of rain. So I don't know. This is more of a Tyler issue. I'm sure he understands.
I'm kind of
the
not
issues here.
following you. What are you talking about? Are you talking about the ag base they put down? Are you talking about the asphalt that's existing? You're kind of
At
all
this-
over the place.
At this point, the ag base, I'm trying to go in order.
Sure.
They ripped out everything that was there and they put down the sand and rock. And then that's been driven on after a rainstorm and that's smooshed it out. So I don't know if they have to go back and repack that. I don't know what we should even expect. I really expected them to put down asphalt Monday because that's what they originally told us. And that would have covered that up so that we didn't have that problem.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to timing. I kind of agree with Ann's take on doing a small section at a time. And I mean, once you've milled it out, and you start seeing soft spots, you're not going to put concrete over that. You're going to remove that and put ag base and put a concrete. So it's not like it would have mattered if we decided to do concrete versus asphalt. You still would have had to remove the bad material, put in the good material. As far as the ag base goes, I assume we're doing compaction testing. So it's and then there's a moisture test that probably goes along with that. So if it rains, they have to get it to that, whatever the test that they're running. I'm not going to speak for them because they're doing the tests, but
Okay, but they've already gone so far now, we can't do concrete. They've already proceeded with the asphalt base stuff. Everything they've done is contingent on putting asphalt on top of it.
yeah, I think that's what was proposed to us on the last repair was that. So
And for one block, I was happy with that because it was just a small piece
sure.
and it mixed the neighborhood. But now we're talking about, I don't know, a quarter of a mile anyway. And I'm not sure I want to, it was 50-year-old road. It probably should have been scheduled for replacement anyway. And that's
I think that's
probably the
true.
same situation with the rest of it is we ought to be looking at replacing it. Because asphalt's got what, a 35, 40-year lifespan? It's not even really rated at 50 years.
It just kind of depends.
You know,
Yeah, in this
Maybe
case,
if
I
you-
think what was proposed was thicker ag base and thicker asphalt than what was there before. If that's what I remember.
Correct.
And so I don't think it's as much an asphalt concrete discussion as is if we believe that what we're putting back is better and could last another 40, this stuff lasted 45 years. I don't know that there's really much discussion for the residential roads on the concrete side. When we see new subdivisions, in some cases, we still have issues with concrete pavement. It cracks and there's issues. So I see what you're saying, John. Maybe you wanted an option, but considering the situation, I think we're sort of pressed in the situation to try to get it covered up.
that's what I'm saying. We don't have any choice now except to
Right.
accept this. But I want to have an option for the rest of the road that's sitting out there. If it's in bad shape, we need to know it.
Sure.
And we need to leave it alone this year and hope like heck we can get it replaced with something good next year.
Right.
Instead of getting into, well, now we need another 150,000 and we're over budget. We got no money to spend on this and we got a hole out there. Now what do we do?
Yeah, and I think the
Excuse
only
me for a second. Just for the record, let's show that Emily just joined on Zoom. Thank you.
and I see, I hear exactly what you're saying. I don't disagree with the, being frustrated about overspending budget, but I think just taking it a chunk at a time, knowing we've got a bigger project, if we end up using up those funds and do less, that might just be in that specific case, the only thing we can do to manage the budget. and I hear you. You don't want to go over budget. I don't either. But when we have it open, I agree with Mr. Schmidt too, that we ought to do it the right way. But I agree with you. Maybe it would be good. Maybe our next process is we take a price from APAC for concrete or asphalt so that we at least have some option. I don't disagree with that.
Right. And that's part of my point is we had no option. This is our only choice. And if we don't accept this now and we take the philosophy, we have
Sure.
to wait till the next council meeting, it's going to sit open for 3 weeks.
Right.
So, I mean, we really have no option. Even if we were going to schedule a special meeting in 3 days, we really have no option.
Right.
They're not going to work over Memorial Day. We need to get it closed up.
Sure.
We have no option.
I do want to ask Ann, I mean, what is your opinion of this being the section we've talked about, the thicker aggregate base, the geogrid, the asphalt? You're confident that that is a good product and we can move forward with this, and concrete isn't going to provide some super superior replacement for this residential road?
The current proposed section for the full depth asphalt will last. I don't have any concerns about that. I think where Mr. Welch is coming from on the concrete is it is less maintenance
Sure.
over the life. So as we've talked about many times when we have subdivisions, if it's within 30%, we usually go with the concrete option because of those maintenance costs into the future.
That's where I'm
Right.
at. And we've got some roads coming up tonight that we're going to want to do concrete on. And here we've not done concrete when we probably should have. And I'm going to suggest we got to at least look at the age of the roads that haven't been torn up yet. And maybe we just stop now before we tear anything else out. Because if they're 50-year-old also, the problem I'm seeing is that all of Bel Aire is built on clay and it's doing this constantly. Okay, so it's probably tearing those roads up. And that's another reason why I like concrete is it's not going to flex as much as asphalt will. And maybe that's a bad thing that it doesn't flex. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but
It breaks instead of flexing.
well, I think it
Well, it gets enough
floats. I think it
draft.
floats in a chunk is kind of what I think it does.
And
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
Long
I mean-
Terrace roads, they're going to be in roughly the same age as Pearson's, as well as the Bowers edition that we're working with over in Stratford. But the interesting thing is none of the Pearson's roads, which to me looked in much worse shape, they didn't need any full depth reconstruction.
Well, except for Memphis. We've got Memphis scheduled for full depth.
That is correct.
We
And they have
already knew
opened
it was
that
in
up
bad
and
shape.
they said it actually looks pretty good. There's only a few areas of soft spots.
And I'm
I-
hearing that Perryton east of Edgemore is not in good shape, and that's not on our list this year, I don't think. I think that's Perryton Street.
I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember
It's
if it's
the
on the
first-
list or not.
I think it's the first road south of Memphis that connects to Edgemore.
And that's a discussion that we're going to have, as what's our protocol moving forward with these? How much do we want to budget? How much do we want to anticipate doing full depth reconstruction? How much do we want to anticipate? We can bid concrete versus asphalt on full depth reconstruction, but how much do you want to anticipate? If we can just get away with a too much mill and overlay, that's a quarter of the cost of the full depth reconstruction.
We could always start putting
Right.
an allowance. We could always start putting an
I was
allowance
okay
in the
with mill and-
bid.
I was okay with mill and overlay because I thought we were saving our roads, not having to replace them.
More of a rehab than a reconstruction.
Yes. But if they're really that awful underneath, then we need to be,
And that's one of those things that we really can't
Like a
figure that out
case-by-case.
until we do that top
and
2
so
inch of
now I'm
overlay.
still hesitant to tear any more road off until we have the money to put it back right. And the plan to do it in short order. I mean, if we find another spot, we need the 2 bids. And we need to not tear it out over the weekend. I was really upset Stratford was torn up so long. If I'd have been living there, I'd have been calling every hour saying, when the heck are you guys going to get out here and finish this? Because you told me you were going to leave this road so I could get to my driveway. I can't get to my driveway because you got an 8-foot hole down here. It's not 8 foot, 8 inches anyway. And then you told me, well, you're going to come back and put asphalt on, but you didn't even come back and do that. And I would be livid if I lived there. And you can tell I'm not happy now. So I don't think we should be treating our residents like that.
I mean, I will chime in. I do think I do think residents understand that some of these projects to rehab existing roads are going to there's going to be some short-term pain, and access is being maintained. I mean, it's not ideal. I agree. It's not ideal, but people were getting to their homes. It was communicated. So I appreciate staff for doing that. So I guess I see this just sort of as a cost of doing business a little bit, both on the resident side and on the city side, because we're replacing old roads. It is going to be painful. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to be able to fix that. So I do think we have to have a little bit of expectations that it's not going to be easy or fun, but hopefully it's short, right? You mentioned it.
That's
Hopefully it's
why
short,
It should have been short.
as short as possible. Different areas is going to be different, right? It's all case by case. That's the problem with the rehab approach is it's not just, yep, we're planning to rip it out and replace it. Which is a lot more black and white.
This feels-
I agree that maybe we could think more about what that process looks like. And I'm sure Ted and staff will have recommendations for what we could think on how we could.
It feels like we've kind of recovered the same issues over and over. I think it's time to call the question on this issue and move forward.
Okay, we've hashed this out. I've got a bunch of opinions out there. People have heard me. And like I said, I think we'd have no choice. Whether we want to have a choice or not, we have no choice. I will motion to approve the change order request number 3 from APAC in the amount of $120,502 for additional full depth replacement and authorize the mayor to sign all related documents.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Schmidt. Any further discussion?
I could
Okay.
discuss this for another half hour.
I
I can't believe you even asked.
I understand it. Okay, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
I forgot Emily was there. I already wrote down 3-0.
All right, we got it correct. So that's good. All right, let's move on to item C.
Can I motion for a 5-minute recess?
I'll second.
You certainly may. So 5-minute recess.
Thank you, John.
And by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Dean. And all in favor, say aye.
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 That motion carries 4-0. So we're in recess for 5 minutes. Okay, we've had a 5-minute recess. Call the meeting back to order. We'll move on to item C. And this is a bridge along Oliver at 45th Street. So this bridge south of 45th on Oliver is in poor condition, needs to be replaced. Garver worked with city staff to design the bridge replacement and coordinate with the upcoming improvements on the intersection at 45th and Oliver. So plans sent to 8 contractors, but only 2 responded with bids for the work. The city did receive a grant from the Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program for this project, and city engineer Ann Stevens is here to present and answer any questions. Ms. Stevens.
I guess starting off, members of the public are going to be like, bridge? What bridge?
Yeah, it's
According
there.
to KDOT, if you have a series of culverts, not a traditional bridge, from the inside of the furthest culvert to the inside of the other furthest culvert, so that longest span of opening, if that's 20 feet or greater, KDOT considers it a bridge. So this area, we've got 4 culverts. I think they were 36 inches. I don't quite remember the exact number, probably larger than that. Anyway, we're over that 20 feet, so it is officially a bridge under KDOT's definition. We have had PEC out to inspect this annually because of the condition of the bridge/culverts. And it's getting to a point in their last inspection. They're also responsible for load rating, that they basically told me flat out, and if you guys don't replace this bridge, we're going to have to require you to close the road because of the condition. They don't want the bridge failing and people traveling public falling in, anything happening. So that's when we first kind of put I guess this was last year in 24, and we did put the application together for the Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program grant project. We were awarded it. It's kind of taking a bridge off of the bridge system and replacing it with a non-bridge length structure that is in good condition. So a little bit of background where we're at. Like the mayor said, this was bid out, and we had 2 contractors of the 8 that we sent plans to, and Donlinger is your confirmed low bidder, $362,000. We have 20 working days in there, which is roughly a month. We are allowing them to close Oliver. We did ask that it be done while school is out to avoid bus traffic. One of the issues that was brought up by both contractors was lead time on the box culvert structures. These box culverts are generally made by Wichita Concrete Pipe / McPherson Concrete Pipe, same company, slightly different names. That's the kind of the local vendor. I'm sure that both companies looked at outsourcing it to potentially Kansas City or Oklahoma City or other places. We have a lead time. We got shop drawings in yesterday. Garver turned them around the same day with approval. And so that is on order. The current schedule says 8 weeks, I believe, to get started. So I'm just giving you a heads up that things happen. We may not get a confirmed delivery for a little while, but we're getting it on their schedule for making. And as soon as we're going to get this as soon as we can. Donlinger understands the importance of getting it done before school because of traffic. That's kind of where we're at. We will make sure that we inform the public as much as possible once we know. I'm hoping that we can get some message boards up to help inform, hey, Oliver's going to be closed. The detour is officially on Woodlawn. There does happen to be some neighborhood streets that will get you right around, but those citizens do not appreciate when a whole bunch of traffic that they're not used to drives through their neighborhood. I wouldn't either, but it's probably going to happen. So it is not official detour. That's kind of where we're at. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them on this particular project.
This has all been done in consideration of the intersection, right? It's not going to interfere with anything.
That is correct. That is correct. Garver is doing the design for the 45th and Oliver intersection. Nothing that will be done in this project, except maybe a head wall on the east side, will need to be replaced. they're doing everything in advance to move in conjunction. And please don't quote me on that because I haven't looked at the plans and I have not talked to them, but they are very well aware and have designed this to work with the upcoming 45th and Oliver project that has yet to be a date assigned to it.
So when you get the box culverts in there, they're going to start calling it a bridge.
No,
Are they going to stop?
I mean,
There-
officially it won't be, but
it will
citizens will
still,
call it a bridge because it'll look more like a bridge.
that is correct. And then with the 45th and Oliver project, what our intent is, it depends on how finances come in, but the base bid for that project will be taking the box culvert structure and extending it through that entire bowl area. So we can cover that whole bowl in with dirt and have a nice little placemaking area.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if bids don't come in, well, at that point, that's one of the first things that we can chunk out. So there's moving pieces, but nothing really affects this except potentially that head wall.
So, and what you're meaning there's the head wall come out, the new precast would be connected to it on that project and then
Yes.
it would head from there.
Correct.
I did want to make one comment. So I did reach out to staff and just kind of mentioned first, thank you for putting these projects together and trying to get them done before school starts. I did mention that there's the current closure for the Keachai project at 61st and Oliver. So currently traffic is not normal at that location. It is detouring currently because you cannot come through Keachai on Oliver. So ideally, it'd be nice to have this done before they open their road and traffic goes back to quote unquote normal. I know that might not be able to happen, but I suggested to staff that they maybe coordinate with Keachai and find out what that proposed date is. And obviously the lead time is going to be
So,
the deciding factor. But
so I did talk to Keachai's city administrator today, and they're projected into July.
probably going to beat us.
About the time you get the box culverts in.
That's and that's what I was. As Ann was doing, I was doing the math really quick, and I'm
That's like,
yeah.
And I was going to ask a question. So the 8x3 precast is not, that is a fairly standard size. Is it just a matter of we're not in line high enough? Like we're in the bottom of the line? Because that is not I guess I'm saying that's a pretty standard precast structure. So is it just a matter of being in line?
it's my understanding that there is just so much work in the metro area right now. They just don't have any in stock. So
Gotcha.
it is, obviously it was bid out 2 weeks ago, I think. And we have, once we award the contract, then they get
Right.
in line. And so like I said, I just got the shop drawings. We turn that around in a day so we can get our spot in line.
Yep. We're just at the mercy of their production line.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, there are two bypass roads. The one that's closest to the intersection is very narrow, and that probably will not survive. That road is older and really narrow, especially when they have cars parked on both sides, which there usually are. There's another road that's further south, much wider, and they can go, and it's newer. And that may be, I don't know how we can do that, but you could try to route them that way through there. But anyway, either way, nobody's going to like it. I don't know if you can say no trucks and make them go all the way around, but I don't know. You guys will have to deal with that, but I don't want to have to replace another road because of this, but I can see damage, but I understand we need to do it, so.
I'm sure the official detour will be at 37th Street.
Absolutely.
That is correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll probably go 37th to Woodlawn,
Yeah, which doesn't need any
which
traffic.
doesn't need more traffic.
Yeah,
but
that'll work.
probably will be. Well, it'll have to be, right.
But the nice thing is this will be done before we restart Woodlawn.
Really? Yeah,
There's a small
Well.
silver lining.
I don't know.
okay.
Okay.
I'm going to motion to accept the bid from Don Linger for $362,037.20 for the 45th and Oliver Bridge project and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Notice of award.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Schmidt, or Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Schmidt. Any additional questions or discussion? If there are none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Is Emily on?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, I hear 4 ayes and no nays, so that motion carries 4-0. Move on to item D. This is the road culvert at 53rd and Rock Road. This culvert is north of 53rd on Rock Road and is poor condition and needs to be replaced. And plans include the work being completed by August 8th of 2025 and allow for 10 working days since the work has started, once the work has started. So Ann Stevens here to present this idea as well and answer questions. This could probably be done a lot quicker.
Correct.
You don't have to wait for box culverts to be made,
Correct.
right?
These are concrete pipes which are kept in stock and made frequently. This is very similar to the project we previously talked about on Oliver. This is an old wooden box culvert, so you don't really see very many of those around. While it is not officially on the KDOT bridge inventory, it's not considered a bridge, it's too small. I have asked PEC to evaluate the culvert whenever they've been in town. They've always generously done that for me and not charged me any extra. So I appreciated that. But we're starting to see some signs of deterioration. We've been watching as you drive by it the last 2-3 years, there is a dip on the south side of the box as you go over it. And you can actually start seeing it from the inside of the box. The material on the outside, south side, is starting to filter through the box when it gets wet, when it rains. So it is definitely time to get this replaced. This project also includes reworking that area of the asphalt as well as a little bit further south on Rock Road, just to get rid of some of the deteriorated asphalt surfacing. So we did send it out to the same 8 bidders, and the same 2 bidders responded. Nobody really said why they didn't want to, but we've got 2 very good quality contractors. And again, Donlinger was the low bidder on this. The road will be completely closed. Fortunately, again, trying to get it done prior to school starting. There is, since it's going to be closed for a shorter period of time, plan on detouring them around Lissay. It's a wider road. It's built for school traffic and all the school buses. So, and it's a relatively newer road too. So we are hoping, knock on wood, that there won't be any concerns with that detour.
This new culvert, will it be wide enough for a 3-lane or easily expandable at least?
It'll be easily expandable.
Okay. But it's not planned to be 3 lanes wide yet?
Correct.
Okay.
I think we should have a,
Oh, go ahead.
I think we should have some kind of a statute that says you can never have less than, because we've got Rock, Woodlawn, and Oliver potentially all closed at the same time. So I think we should have a statute that says a minimum of those 6 lanes, minimum of 4 are always available going south. I don't think we should ever have 2 of the 3 main arteries into Bel Aire shut down. So I don't know how you do that, and I'm thinking maybe this won't happen, but I think it should be obvious. We never want to have just 2 or 3 lanes total going into the city, at least 4 out of the 6. So anyway, don't let Oliver get stopped, and then there's a problem, and then we've got this one shut down, and then we got Woodlawn half on and half off. Ugh. So I think we should at least make sure we've got 4 out of 6, always.
And I can certainly make that request to
Yeah,
Donlinger
just
that
to
we
make sure,
do
we
the Rock culvert
coordinate.
first and
Yeah.
then the Oliver culvert second
start
as we're
in,
waiting.
make sure they don't overlap.
Yeah, we've had that situation before. We had to put a stop to some things because they're going to close
So,
53rd and 45th both at the same time.
yeah.
And I said, you can't do that.
But they should easily be able to do Rock
Yeah.
before they even start on Oliver, since
Right.
there's a delay. on
Anyway,
But it's a good
parts.
point. So,
As long as
Okay.
nothing, stuff happens, so let's just make sure we
Right.
manage it. I'm sure we will, but okay.
I'm assuming Don Linger's getting this. We haven't even made a motion yet.
no, we haven't. But we're ready to if anybody wants to make one.
Okay, fine. I motion to accept the bid from Don Linger in the amount of $130,689 for the 53rd and Rock Road Culvert Replacement Project, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement and notice of award.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Welch, a second by Mr. Dean. Any other questions or discussion? If not, we'll go on to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? I don't think I heard that, but that motion carries 4-0. Move on to item E. Now, item E, F, and G were pulled from our last agenda. We will consider all these, but we have 2 of them. We have scripts to go through. So, and Paula Downs is here to go over some of this, but just at our April meeting, the Planning Commission considered 2 applications for the same property at Terra Verde South Addition, one for vacation of a building setback and one to amend the PUD. Follow-up public hearings on each application. The Planning Commission voted in 2 separate actions to recommend approval of the vacation and the PUD. So Paula is here to present the preliminary issue on this Terra Verde planned unit development.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to sort of highlight through my staff report about what the PUD is requesting. This is the general location. It sits across the street from the Bel Aire Recovery Center, so that acclimates you to that area. And it's circled in yellow. It's just affecting Lot 1 at this time. Basically, it's generally between 45th and 49th on Tierra Lakes Parkway. They're proposing to build an R6 multifamily development, which is really 12 buildings. I call them vertical duplexes. They're stacked vertically versus horizontally.
Okay.
So 12 buildings for a total of 24 units. Part of the analysis, this is the vacation case. I think that mixed up, maybe. Let's try this one. Same location, same background information. So there's been a couple of previous cases, one of which was to change the zoning in that area. That case had to come back for an extra owner signature on the case, but it established the R6 uses. And in November, they came back with a sketch plan asking for insight on this 10 versus 12 unit development. The sketch plan was reviewed by Planning Commission. Planning Commission provided some few comments, and they came back with this PUD application. And what it is doing is amending some of the bulk regulations related to setbacks, building separation distances, the parking setbacks, paving setbacks, minimum lot areas, required parking spaces and the type of parking, and then a request to reduce a landscaping requirement. So in the staff report, what I tried to do was very specifically set out what the code currently says around these areas and what they're requesting. And what they're requesting is really some more dense ability to build on this particular lot. So they're reducing several of the setbacks, et cetera. And so I tried to put all those details in so you'd have some clear understanding about what the zoning code requirements currently are, but yet what they're requesting. And so as we went through the review considerations related to character of neighborhood and zoning uses, the end analysis was that our recommendation would be based on a few key review criteria elements. This lot has been vacant for quite some time, 16 years. There's been no development on that section. The character of the neighborhood, based on what's happening in the surrounding areas, would not be negatively impacted. And the public infrastructure is already there. The road is in, and it's ready to go through. So this is a second amendment to the planned unit development agreement that you see before you that has all of the information in it. A little bit different format that you will see. There are lots of parcels in this. This is a PUD agreement, original, what we call the PUD family, right? That has a lot of different owners and properties involved in it. We tried to parcel them out so it would be clearer about what is going on in each of the areas in this PUD agreement. And so it is before you. We're recommending that you approve that, but I will stand for any questions, and the applicant is also here.
Do you know, I'm not sure this is supposed to be considered, but what about the ownership of the neighboring lots? Are they the same owners that they just haven't got around to expanding there yet?
They're not.
They're not the same owners. You're talking about the whole PUD map area?
At least the immediate neighbors on the property lines.
Yes, there are, right now there are 5 owners in the PUD, what I call the environs of the map.
and different lots are owned across each of those four, including the City of Bel Aire Land Bank, which owns the medians in the roads, right? And then there's four other owners, including one is the applicant, and then us, and then three others.
Okay, it's been
It's
so long
mixed
since
matched
I read
across the
this. I
condo.
assume nobody objected to this.
They were all notified. We did not receive any verbal inquiries, nor have they appeared in the case. Although, as you'll see in the Second Amendment, all the owner's signatures will be required because they're part of the PUD environs.
Yeah, those other lots, I mean, from what I could tell, what was drawn in there were just commercial buildings. And so now they're going to have this corner that's going to be houses, I mean, or these, whatever they call it, 12 unit. And then probably 200 yards roughly to the north, that's, you get into all those duplexes. Because I've driven through there. Yeah, so.
You're
I
talking
mean,
about
I
the
don't know
forward
that
tight road.
yeah, it just seems like it's kind of a strange, you're going to have this isolated people and then kind of industrial.
It depends on what gets built.
Right.
The PUD has allowed for R6
Well, sure, they could
multifamily
put anything in
and
there.
commercial,
They could
yeah.
put anything
And they
in
could
there.
come back and ask for another rezone on their particular lot should the development arise. But right now, there's nothing developed.
Yeah, I
The,
know it's
his,
all-
the history on this Terra Verde was this was all supposed to be medical doctor's office facilities. And that was what it was
Originally,
originally
exactly.
platted for. That's what the roads were put in for. But that all fell apart years ago.
Right. so-
And they've been sitting ever since. Now these developers are saying, hey, we got a different idea here of what we can do. And now we're ready to move forward with that different idea. I mean, I can't speak for what a developer will do, but I'd be surprised any developer come in there with a commercial building or I'd just be surprised if they would do that, even though you're right. They were plotted that way.
Yeah, so I mean, I understand what they're doing.
And if these people get in here and build their development, they'll be able to complain that they don't want a commercial facility next door.
That
There
is
you go.
true.
That's true.
But this guy on the corner doesn't care because he owns that one, not adjacent. So, yeah, but, those people on adjacent lots can complain, or they may just say, hey, why don't we just go with the flow and put up more, high-rise apartments or whatever, which they could.
Well, at one point, I thought that was the plan, that those lots around that street that goes northeast were going to become multi-unit family
Family.
development.
There has been some discussion like that, but nobody's come forward with
But
a plan.
nobody's built anything
I
yet.
know what
So-
you're saying. Well, maybe this is the first step. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dean.
Paul, I do have a question. So on these vertical duplexes, you called them, that's sort of the vision of what this particular developer, right? We don't know what others might do. When you say these setback changes, like in parking requirements, I'm having a hard time visualizing that. And I'll say why I have a concern is parking and sidewalks. And a lot of the times I've seen developments done in different ways. And I'm just because we haven't done these vertical style and we're reducing the front setbacks so much, how does the parking spaces and how does the access to sidewalks? And I guess what I don't want to see in any of our developments is people having to walk or bike in the street because parking is being blocked or there's a drive block. So just kind of help me understand that piece of this, because we're making a lot of, we're changing a lot of things here. When you really look down at it, we're changing a lot from code on this particular request. So just help me understand that.
So
Tyler?
if you'd like me
This
to
is-
answer it,
This
I'm
is
happy
their lot
to.
layout that
Let's
they-
Do you
let
want-
her answer the question, please.
Do you want to hear from the applicant
Yeah.
and
I
their
mean,
design
it would be
to
nice to
answer
kinda-
some questions?
Yeah, it'd be good
Okay.
to just understand the
We're
vision.
okay. So let's hold on. We've got two other items here to have all these discussions with. This is just one of the next two items are the vacation and the PUD. This is just to
Sure,
this
the
is to
agreement.
approve. I'm not quite understanding, and maybe somebody needs to help me understand why we even have item E on here, but it is the Second Amendment to the Prairie Plan Unit Development Agreement. But then we have a PUD 25-01, which looks like it's the same thing, but I don't know
It
that.
is the same case. So we have the a second amendment to the PUD agreement is one item, and then the ordinance approving
Okay, so this
it
is the agreement, and then we got the ordinance.
ordinance. It's
Okay.
that, and then you have a vacation case because that's outside of what the PUD case
Yes,
covered.
yes.
Yes.
I understood that part of it, but thank you.
So they're all three tied together.
They are all three tied together, all dealing with the same.
Exact same lot.
Development.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the second amendment to the Tierra Verde PUD agreement for the Tierra Verde South Edition as presented, contingent upon all PUD property owners signing the agreement and authorize the mayor to sign.
And I still have an outstanding question.
Yeah, I would like
want to
to-
make sure that I
Well,
can
let's
answer.
finish the motion
Okay.
and then we'll talk, we'll have that.
Okay.
So we do need a second on the motion before we proceed. Anybody want to make a second to the motion?
Well, that's not a good sign. You're in trouble if nobody will second that motion.
If there is no second, that motion, I'll have to declare that motion is dead. Okay, that motion dies. Do we want to move on to the next item, or do we want to?
I don't think we
Have more
can if we
discussion
didn't pass E.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg?
I wanted to hear Ms. Downs's response to Councilmember Dean's question.
Yes, she certainly can do that.
And then my counter ask was, do you want to hear from the applicant who's actually developing the
I think
road?
I said yes.
And you said yes. So I don't know how we move to that, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I think it's fine, but just remember, we're going to hear from him again, okay, later, but that's fine. So come on up and make your presentation and we'll go from there.
Kirk Miller, KE Miller Engineering. I'm the agent for the applicant. And I guess the question I'm not sure exactly what the question is that I'm supposed to answer.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay.
So this is different than we've done before in the vertical side. I've seen them built in other
Right.
places,
Mhm.
but I'm struggling seeing the vision of how this is going to it's going to connect to our infrastructure. There's a lot of changes in the code to make this happen because it's basically setting up, it was more of a apartment complex type setup. There's a parking lot in the middle, there's buildings around it, and I'm not against that.
Mhm.
But what I want to make sure is if we're approving these types of construction, that they work and they're safe with the rest of our connecting roads and sidewalks. And I look at this plan and I see sidewalks to get to cars, but I don't see any way that we're connecting sidewalks to the existing sidewalk that the city, invested in infrastructure wise. I just want to know what the vision is of how this will fit our community and tie into the existing infrastructure.
And we can make sure those sidewalks tie into the sidewalk down on the street. That's not a problem.
Gotcha.
And the reason, it was platted with a 40-foot setback, which I think the intent probably at that time was some kind of a commercial development because you put your parking field out front.
Right.
So your building would be sitting way back there. But since it's residential, we're wanting to reduce that by vacating some of that setback. That's the only way to get rid of it,
Right.
which then lets you put your structures closer to the street, which is still, I think we're at, I don't remember what setback we're at, but
40.
we're at 40 now, so it was
Was
greater
40,
than
then it
40
was gonna be,
before.
yeah.
But
25.
you've got your 14 and a half feet from the right of way, and then you've got whatever the setback is. So we're still quite a ways away from the,
And this is
From the
still, it's
street
just to
with it.
maximize the use for residential.
Right.
I understand.
right.
I was more concerned with how this is situated and how it's connecting to our existing infrastructure. That's really my main concern.
Yeah, and we can add that sidewalk. That's fine. I mean, if you want to make that part of the deal, we'll be glad to do that. I just don't know that we ever gave it that much thought as tying that in. We show it tying over to the road. We can go back and forth across the drive, but yeah, we can tie it over on both sides, take it down to the sidewalk out on the street.
It's just a concern of mine with the density that there isn't a separation, right? There isn't a safer way to walk or bike. You're doing it in the path of a car.
Right.
With a lot of cars parked next to each other, that tends to cause some
Sure.
more issues.
No,
So
yeah, I understand.
I appreciate you responding to that.
That's not a problem.
Thank you.
There is an existing sidewalk in there, isn't it, already
On the
put in
street,
place,
yes,
right?
there is.
Yes.
And we
So I
just
thought
tie into
so.
that. Mhm.
I was worried about a residential island. I didn't want to have that created until I got an answer. I didn't want to accept any motion to proceed. Because I think we can't create a residential island with this. I know it's great for the developer because you want to have a use for it. I agree, but I don't want to have the residents isolated because we're trying to tie the city together, not break it apart. So that was my concern as well. That's why I wanted to have your answer.
I think connecting it this way does facilitate some safer connection to the rest of the neighborhood. I understand that some of it's undeveloped and we can't do anything about that. It'll develop as it develops. So
And hopefully something like this will spur some development.
sure. And it's great that we have the existing city infrastructure there.
Mhm.
So in general, I'm supportive. I just wanted to understand the vision and how it would
Okay.
connect with us.
Sure.
I don't know if it adds anything, but Ty and myself have worked on this piece of property with many different developers in
Yeah.
many different areas.
I know, that's
We've had big houses with big shops and these types of things. So this has just been one of the many ways we're trying to develop this area. If that helps any, that it wasn't purely a commercial style. We've been trying to find different ways to develop this area.
Any other questions for the applicant or for Paula?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So we're at item E and don't have any questions. We can entertain a motion again. We're willing to consider it now.
So, Mr. Mayor, I do want to ask a question. I don't know if Maria's still on, but legally, when we do this motion, are we going to say as amended with the sidewalk considerations, or how do we read this motion?
Councilmember Dean, you are reading my mind. If you make the motion as amended, what I typed up was applicant agrees to additional provision of adding a sidewalk to connect and tie with city sidewalks on both sides of the subject lot. Does that sound fair and accurate of what you were discussing with the applicant?
Yeah, I do. I think that would be preferable because then both sides of that parking lot will connect to city public sidewalks. So
Right.
I think that would work.
If you do, very good. If you do as amended with the additional provision language that Maria just read, that will be sufficient. And I will make sure to get that to our city clerk so it can be added to the minutes.
I have a problem with that. Is there already a sidewalk on that north side? I thought the answer was no at this time.
There is. I looked it up on Google Earth.
So,
Okay.
so we don't even need to amend it for a sidewalk. There's already a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a side.
There's a public sidewalk running down the street. Is that what your question is?
It abuts the street.
Yes.
It is not in the street, but it is on that subject property within the easement.
Correct. And he can,
Okay, so we don't need to amend it.
here, I can pull it up real quick and
I guess I'm just looking at the sketch that was provided, and I'm seeing a public sidewalk along Tira Lakes Parkway, and then I'm seeing proposed drive, private drive, and proposed sidewalk that are in front of the parking stalls. And what I was simply saying is there needs to be direct connectivity between the ends of those walks and the public sidewalk. And I think you guys understand what I'm saying.
There you go, though, Tyler.
That's the public
Sidewalk right there.
There's the sidewalk. It's
All
already
right.
there.
Yep. So we're connecting to that from the parking
From
lot.
the
That's all
parking
we're
lot.
asking about. That's all we're saying.
But they don't even have to connect to it. It's already there.
No, they do, John.
They're going to put a driveway across it.
Well, they're gonna have a drive, and there's clearly a parking lot, and there's a sidewalk that kind of encapsulates the parking lot, but there's a missing link between that public sidewalk and the end of that parking lot sidewalk.
Yeah, but that's not a public sidewalk. That's a private sidewalk at that point.
Yes, John, and what I'm saying is I've made it clear to the developer that I want that connection to happen so that people aren't having to walk through a driveway to get to a public sidewalk.
Okay, because that was not what I heard. I heard that you wanted it in front of the buildings when you made the original sidewalk statement, and that may not have been what you ever meant, but that's what I heard.
Well, I mean, they already have it sketched in front of, because that's the parking
Okay,
lot.
so we've got a plan
spots.
here that
I think
seems
I think
everybody
we've
works.
got something that we can move forward with. But thanks for the sketch. That helped. All right. I think I'm ready to make a motion here.
And Councilman Burt Dean, this is Maria Schrock again. I have with your new comments to adding a sidewalk to connect and maintain with any current sidewalks that are present on both sides of the subject lot. Is that a fair and accurate depiction?
Yes, I mean, if that's a normal thing for a private sidewalk that connects to a public right of way.
Okay, thank you.
So you're wanting it down the east side? I'm trying to picture this on. There's a hammerhead
Right
turnaround.
there, the black one is a laser pointer. If you want a laser,
There's only one driveway that goes into the whole thing.
the little line.
I sketched it on there. Do you have the thing
Is
that
it
I did on?
this? Is it this connection down to the sidewalk out of the driveways?
Yeah, so on each side of
each
that
side.
drive, there's an end of parking lot sidewalk, and that would connect essentially along the drive
Connect
with the
down to
sidewalk, so
public
people aren't
side.
having to walk through the road to get to the public sidewalk.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I agree with you. I just couldn't picture it
Yeah.
before.
I should have just drew it. I sketched it on there, but it might be hard to see.
All right.
All right. I think I'm ready to make a motion. So I move we approve a second amendment to the Tierra Verde PUD agreement for Tierra Verde South Edition as amended to include sidewalks connecting the proposed development, parking lot sidewalks to the public sidewalk via private sidewalks along the private drive that connect to the public sidewalk. That's probably too wordy, but I'm going to go with that. Contingent upon all PUD property owners signing the agreement and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. Schmidt. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 I hear 4 ayes. Any opposed? The motion carries 4-0. Now ready to move on to the vacation ordinance. So this action is the ordinance related to the vacation request discussed in the previous action. Staff is here, Paula Dean, to Paula Downs. Unless
You know,
you're a
I
cook
can
today.
respond to anything, Mr. Mayor. I was with you. I was
Unless
with you
you're
the
a
whole
cook today,
time.
but okay. Sorry. Anyway, however, we have to follow a script on this item, so the staff will answer questions at appropriate time. And I'll call that script up here. So first of issue is disqualification declared and quorum determined. So before we proceed to the hearing, does anyone in the council intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they have a conflict of interest?
Nope.
I do not see anyone saying
No.
they do. So I'm going to ask that the record show that no one was disqualified. And second is ex parte communication. Has anyone on the council received any ex parte verbal or written communications prior to the agenda item which they would like to share? And look, it appears to be everybody's saying no, so let the record reflect no on that question. As for the city clerk, has the city clerk received any protest petitions or written objections to this case? The city clerk says no, so let the record show that she says there's no objections, or she's not received any protest petitions. So summary hearing, has everyone in the council received and approved the unapproved minutes of the planning commission for April 10th, 2025, which summarizes the public hearing for this case?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Dean, have you had a chance to review
Yep.
it? Okay. Ms. Hamburg? Okay. So let the record show that all council members present have had a chance to review the planning commission minutes. And internally, all council members have received the required information. The city staff will provide a first report first, then the applicant members. And if there's anything you want to add from what you've already said, Paula or the applicant, you can do that now.
I just want to state that this is a request to reduce the platted 40-foot building setback to 25-foot in accordance with the R6 multifamily district use. There was no concerns related by the Planning Commission related to reducing that setback. It doesn't create any site concerns or viewing site concerns related to this. So we are recommending that you approve it.
Okay. And that's the recommendation of the Planning Commission as well?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Written communications. Have any written communications been received? And that, I think that's more of a written city clerk question item. Okay, thank you. Applicant's presentation. Does the applicant have any additional information you'd like to present or discuss? Okay, thank you. So council deliberations, this is a chance to talk more about this and decide what you'd like to do. So you can talk about legal notice has been given to publication as required, that no private rights have been injured or endangered by the vacation, that the public will suffer no loss or inconvenience here thereby, and that injustice in the petitioner and the request for petitioner ought to be granted. So you may enact an ordinance containing order that the vacation shall be made. So it's time to deliberate, and if you have any questions, certainly bring those about. Just a clarification from our city attorney, is this an issue we need to talk about golden factors, or will that be the next item?
And this issue with Kansas statute, the factors to consider would be the ones that you just read, and then golden factors will be considered in the next item.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. So we do need a record that says what of these items they are considering as applicable. Is that correct?
Well, it's clearly not going to affect the neighbors because there are no neighbors.
Well, I'd like to have an answer from our city
Oh.
attorney, please.
I was starting to give my opinion why we should do this.
You're correct, Mayor.
Okay.
Based upon the information you've received from staff, the applicant, if you believe that there are no issues with those factors you just read, then if council can just share that yes or no, that would be plenty for the record. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Now you may proceed.
Well, then I agree that whatever, we've discussed all this already and everything is fine. So yes, I agree.
Yeah, reading through the report and a lot of the items you read and staff's recommendation and the planning commission's recommendation, I would agree that all those make sense to me.
No issues here.
If there are no issues, there are no discussion, then we can move on to motion. There have been three proposed motion or three draft motions there, or options, I should say. So pick the option you think is most appropriate and we'll move forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the findings of fact and recommendation of the Planning Commission for VAC-25-02, adopt the ordinance as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
Okay, with that motion, the note I have here is a simple majority is acceptable. We do not need to call a roll. Is that correct, City Attorney?
With this being a zoning matter and with our policy, we would request a roll call vote, please, Mr. Mayor.
You want a roll call vote? Okay. The motion was made by Mr. Welch.
Mhm.
Okay. And who
I'll
was
second it.
seconded? Did you second it?
Oh,
Mr.
sorry.
Schmidt?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Greg David? Excuse me, he's absent. Mr. Tyler Dean?
Aye.
Miss Emily Hamburg?
Aye.
Mr. Tom Schmitz?
Aye.
Mr. John Welch?
Aye.
And Mayor Tim Benaj?
Aye,
And the motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
thank you. So closing remarks. Persons aggrieved by the final decision of the City Council in this matter have rights provided by at law. We will thank everyone for participating in this matter. Move on to item F. And this is,
That was after moving to G.
G.
you're right, G. Okay, yeah. I gotta get up on my screen correctly. Okay, yeah. So this action ordinance related to the PUD request discussed in the previous action. So again, we have a script to follow, and then we can answer questions. Get that script up here. So it's very similar to the last one. Anybody disqualified declare a quorum. So if does anyone in the council intend to disqualify themselves from participating in this case because they have a conflict of interest? I'm seeing no, so let the record say that all council members said they did not have a conflict of interest. Ex parte communications on this case. Has anyone on the council received any ex parte verbal or written communications prior to the agenda that they would like to share? And I'm seeing no on that, so let the record please show no on ex parte communications. And protest petitions. Has the city clerk received any protest petitions on this case? And the clerk has said no, that she does not. So we'll move on to summary hearing. Has anyone in the council received the unapproved minutes of the planning commission for April 10th, 2025, which is the same question we had in the last item. So I assume that everybody's had a chance to read that because we asked that question before. So let the record say that the council members affirmed that they have read the minutes. So having determined council members have received the required information, city staff will provide a report. So you're welcome to do that. Then the applicant and any members of the public may speak on this case, confining their presentations to new information not otherwise presented in the public hearing. Afterwards, council may want to direct questions to the applicant, the city staff, or other persons present. So this is a time for city staff to make a report and make your recommendations and forward the recommendations of planning commission.
I have nothing new to add since the conversation on the previous item. But if you have any other questions that have come up, I'm happy to answer that.
And the recommendations of the planning commission
Or to approve.
to approve. Thank you. Just want to make sure we have the record. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll get us started. I'd like to say that, with this length of time, it's kind of shocking to think about how long it's been since that property's been developed to develop further, right? The city built infrastructure to develop that area and it hasn't been developed. So I'm in support of it just from the simple fact of length of time, but also the infrastructure, public utilities and streets. As I've already mentioned, the connection to public infrastructure that these residents will be able to enjoy after these are completed. And I really appreciate, I'll just make a comment, I appreciate the creativity thought of different types of housing because we desperately need different options in that. And so I think this fits the character of the neighborhood. There's lots of other multifamily or duplexes north of this, likely going to be more in the area. And I agree with the recommendations of staff on a lot of those issues as well. So I'll be.
Okay. So let's go through the script a little bit further.
Oh,
we
sure.
do have a little more formalities that we need to make sure we do. Written communications. Have we had any written communications been received? I don't think that's no. So an applicant's presentation, do you wish to present anything new? Okay, thank you. And let the record show that the applicant did not want to, did not have any additional information for it. So public comments, if anybody public would have interest in the agenda item, to come to the podium and give your name, address, and presentation. I don't see anybody from the public here, so I'm going to assume that there are none that wish to do that. And the governing body has presented with unapproved minutes of the public hearing from the planning commission that was held on April 10th. So are there any questions for the public presenter for council members, from council members? So there are no public presenters, so I don't need to worry about that. Okay, we'll move on. Applicant's response. I think the applicant's already said he's said everything he feels he needs to say, unless we've got more questions, right? Very good, thank you. So now is the right time to do more deliberations if there's any more discussion among council members. So the three questions that you do need to look at, or four of the issues you need to look at, is council agree, disagree with the staff's city staff's recommendations? Do you agree or disagree with the planning commission's findings regarding the golden factors? So, and does the council agree or disagree with the planning commission's recommendations? There's actually three questions. It was a big space in there. So,
Okay, well, I agree with our city staff, the planning commission. Like I said, this is they're going to be the first thing that's built in that area, so there's no conflict with anything else there. And I believe it's a good thing that we're finally getting something built in that area.
Mr. Mayor,
Miss, um, Ms. Schrock.
Hamburg, Emily Hamburg.
Oh, Hamburg, I'm sorry, I misunderstood who was
I did the
talking.
voices.
Yes,
Yeah, no, I agree with the two council members. 16 years is a long time, and the water and sewer is right sized, and the streets are there. So I agree with Planning Commission and staff, and I'm in support of this. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else want to make any comments? Just for clarification from the city attorney, golden factors need to be specifically addressed here. We don't have to address them all, but we at least need to address some of the golden factors in these deliberations.
That's correct. Mayor Panaj, thank you.
Thank you. So we would need to do that. And I don't have that list in front of me, but if you remember what they are, we've gone over them before. But
I was going to say, I thought I
The
hit
list
them,
is in
but-
the staff report, if you want to reference that, Mayor.
they are in the staff report?
Yes, they
Okay.
are.
So we
All
can
the
look at the
factors
staff
are there.
report. Can we refer to the staff report as the acceptable golden factors? Is that acceptable to our city attorney?
You can refer to the staff report with the recommendations of staff because staff does provide a little note on each golden factor. You can also say you want to adopt the findings of fact by the Planning Commission.
Okay. So that helps, I think, if that helps council members.
Sure.
In your opinion, Maria, have we adequately covered the golden factors in our discussions so far this evening?
With the discussion of these three items and especially with staff, I would agree, Mayor
Okay.
Panaj.
Very good. Thank you. Well, with knowing that, I think we could move forward with the motion if somebody would like to make one.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I motion we approve the findings of fact and recommendations of the Planning Commission for PUD 25-01, adopt the ordinance as presented and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dean and second by Mr. Welch. Any additional questions or discussions? Again, this is an ordinance, so we'll have a roll call vote.
Thank you. Mr. Tyler Dean,
Aye.
Miss Emily Hamburg,
Aye.
Mr. Tom Schmitz,
Aye.
Mr. John Welch,
Aye.
Mayor Jim Benosh.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0, Mayor.
Thank you. We're ready to move on to item H. And how much more we got? Two more things. Okay, three things. So item H is accepting bid for Bel Aire Lakes paving and drain project. And 4 bids were received, so the developer is ready to move forward with the construction of the paving improvements to support the subdivision. Certified Engineering Designs worked with the developer to design the water and sanitary sewer improvements in Bel Aire Lakes, and bids were accepted on April 29th for the project with 4 contractors. And Ms. Stevens is here to present and answer questions. There was an error. Just want to note there was an error in the packet. The remaining balance of the original petition with escalation for concrete should be $561,334.65. It was printed in the package as $765,160.65. So there's a reduction in that about $200,000 in what's available. So
Mayor, thank you for pointing that out and correcting that for me. I don't know where the other number came from.
it just didn't make sense when I read it. I thought, oh,
No,
that
it-
doesn't
yeah.
look right.
You're 100% correct.
Thank
So Bel Aire Lakes is currently ongoing. We've got the water and sewer improvements that are being installed by Nowak Construction. That project is finished. The water is done. I can't remember where they're at on the sanitary sewer, but we're taking bids in advance of the moving on to the paving and drainage portions. As you see, we did receive 4 bids for the project. The base bid does include just the streets in the asphalt. The alternate A is a cast-in-place reinforced concrete box culvert, RCBC. That was bid out because occasionally those do come in a little bit less expensive. This was not the case. So I'd ask the council to just kind of ignore alternate A for the time being. Alternate B was the concrete pavement. So we're really evaluating the base bid or the base bid plus alternate B tonight. Pearson was the low bidder for both of those alternates. And the concrete pavement was about 8.35% higher than the cost for the asphalt from Pearson. I did receive communication from the developer expressing his interest in the asphalt pavement. He wasn't sure that the costs would be working out for the concrete. I did encourage him to write a letter and or show up tonight. He did not choose to come tonight. I have not heard why. He did reach out and ask for a meeting with myself and Ted, and that will occur on Thursday afternoon. So that's kind of where we're at. But the city has typically gone with concrete if it's within the 30%, which kind of covers our maintenance costs of the asphalt in perpetuity. The developer comes in, they'd like to get it as cheap specials as they can so they can get the lot sold quickly. But then the city is left with maintenance costs on those asphalt streets with no way to recoup those additional costs. So that was kind of a very brief history of the process and the project. And if anybody well, I guess before we move forward, construction inspection for this project, I reached out to 4 different companies. 3 of them told me no. And the 4th one did not respond in time for this agenda. I am working with that 4th company to get me some costs. And I don't think this is going to go anywhere prior to our next meeting in June, which I will have those costs available to you.
Do you think we're really ready to consider this? If you have a meeting scheduled with the developer for Thursday?
They had the option of coming. Ted and I gave them several opportunities and appointments prior to this meeting, and there was no response until this morning. So I'm providing you information. I'm going to let you decide. It is the council's authority to kind of accept what they want, but I'm just kind of just trying to provide you with the background.
Okay, I appreciate that. So if we would table this, is that going to cause a problem with the timing of the bids?
I
We table
believe
this
that-
until June 3rd?
And the city attorney will have to answer that, but I believe those bids are subject to acceptance for 60 days.
If we make a decision on this instead of tabling it, we can still revoke the decision in June, correct? If there's convincing argument why we shouldn't go with what we decide.
That would be a city attorney question.
Well, we've revoked.
And
change
Maria, you
orders.
are
I
on
don't know
mute
why we
if you're
couldn't
trying to
revoke.
Well,
speak.
Yeah, this
you're
is a
getting
little
into
different, I
contracts
guess.
here.
Yeah,
So
excuse me.
That's the
You're right.
difference. That's the difference because we have to sign a authorization to proceed in a contract. So that's muddies the waters a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess my thought on this is 8.3%. It's a pretty low add. I mean, from our normal policy, I'm having a hard time believing that there's any argument that it would be in the benefit of the city to not use the concrete on this with consideration of it being that low of an add. But I guess I could be convinced otherwise. I'm having a hard time of seeing why.
My concern is not that so much as that the developer has asked for a meeting.
Right.
And maybe he's aware that this is on the agenda tonight. I assume he knows it's on the agenda
Yes.
tonight, but he's asking for a meeting that could change what we consider here. And so I'm concerned about that. Okay. I mean, I don't know if it will. I don't know if it would change anything, but I'm concerned about that.
The other piece of this is the original petition was for $2.15 million. The concrete option left, if we went with the concrete option and just that original petition amount, there would be minimal amount, I think maybe 100,000 left over in that petition, if I'm remembering my numbers correctly. I do not have them in front of me.
Okay.
But that would not be enough to cover the inspection. But we reached out to Kevin Cowan, our bond counsel. He calculated the petition creep from the time it was signed to now, and that's where you have that higher number, which everything fits within.
Gotcha.
Well, I'm going to suggest we table it until you have your meeting, but that, it's really up to council. I can't make that decision.
Well, I agree with Tyler that this is a minimal difference to me. It's $140,000 difference between asphalt and concrete, and we got one block on Stratford for about that price.
But we're making an assumption here that that's the only issue to the developer, and I don't know that.
And you know that the meeting you guys set, and maybe this is a Ted or Ann question, I know you both probably scheduled it or worked together. Is the meeting specifically about the use of concrete versus asphalt, or is it a developer meeting in general?
They did not tell me. They just said that they would like to sit down. I heard through the engineer that he was concerned about the price on the concrete paving in relation to the specials. So that's the information that I'm using to provide to you tonight. I did not hear anything specific. These meetings have been scheduled through their secretary, administrative assistant, not directly with the developer.
Is this a developer we've worked with before?
Bassam Kirachati. He has developing the Skyview. He bought Skyview Second Phase 2. And I think there might be one other that he has purchased, but I'm not 100% sure.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hamburg.
I just want to make sure, Ms. Stevens, I heard you correctly. If we table this for 2 weeks to have that meeting with the developer, that would not cause any issues with these bids. We'd still be within the 60 days, correct?
That is my understanding. I would ask for the city attorney, who has reviewed these contracts much more recently than I have, to provide her opinion and recollection as to whether that 60 days is truly included within that bid.
There have been I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, this is Maria Schrock. May I make a comment?
Certainly, we're waiting for your answer.
Thank you. There have been multiple questions raised, and the mayor makes a very good point. I do not know what this individual is going to say and would suggest tabling.
So in response to the question,
That was fine.
I do have one more
Sorry.
question.
well, hold on a second. Let's try to get the answer to this question that Ms. Hamburg raised. Ms. Schrock, is there any risk on these bids that they will expire before June 3rd?
I am looking at the bid information right now. It is not specifically covered in the contract. These would be from the bidders themselves. I'm trying to pull that up.
This should be in the bid form that was an attachment to the contract, or that would have been an attachment.
60 days is pretty standard.
We're looking at 20-year specials now, right?
Yeah.
The one question I had, if we can do it while she's looking that up, the rest of it, this is a section of Bel Aire Lakes, right? There's other parts that have already been built. Can you confirm what's been used on the other part of Bel Aire Lakes, asphalt or concrete?
This is a section of Bel Aire Lakes. However, it is the first section of
Okay.
Bel Aire Lakes.
So it is the first.
To the south of Bel Aire Lakes, we have Cedar Pass, which the first phase has already been constructed, and that is concrete.
Okay. That's what I had in my mind. So that's Cedar Pass,
Correct.
which is just south or north of 53rd, and this is north of that.
Correct.
Good to know. Thank you.
I'm doing some rough calculating here, and the amount of difference in specials is $200 a year for the difference in the price between asphalt, and because there's about 60 lots affected by this.
And from from dealing with a lot of developers and a lot of specials over the years, I think the major issue is when the engineers set the petition amounts, that's what they go off of. And no matter what the creep says, or, it's getting close to that petition amount, if not exceeding it. And that's what kind of scares or makes developers get a little uneasy, because they set out their plan and their ROI based on that engineering estimate. And when it's at the top end of that engineering estimate, it gets a little tighter.
I'm going to throw a different idea out. If we procrastinate, that means everything gets started later on building all this, which means the developer can't build this development as fast. Can't start selling houses.
Not necessarily, because we can't get started without engineering inspection. So that it can't get started until after your June 3rd meeting, as it is.
But he's not going to want to build a bunch of houses on a piece of dirt right now, is he, without a road to it?
Correct, but we can't get started on the
And-
street and drainage project until we have an approved contract for inspection.
It makes a good point. It might be cleaner to wait until June 3rd while we have the engineering inspection contract, because like we said, it's been so busy out there. It's been difficult to get even that service.
Well, and that was my other thought, was if we wait to sign a contract, he may not get it done even longer.
I do not see a bidders tab attached to the agreement. That the only agreement that I submitted to agenda was the 7-page agreement, supplemental terms, Bel Aire standard terms and conditions. But I did not submit any type of bidders tab. Perhaps that's in the front end documents, but I would again suggest, with all of the moving parts on this, if you're going to have an agreement and if you're missing information that's necessary, to table it till June 3rd.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean?
I'll go ahead and move. We table consideration of accepting a bid for Bel Aire Lakes paving and drainage project.
Motion by Mr. Dean. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. Schmidt. Any additional discussion before we call for a vote? Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Your two ayes and those nays?
Nay for me.
Looks like Emily might have dropped off.
Emily, they're still there. She's
Well, that presents a problem.
She's not up there. Oh, she's back.
there. She's back. Emily, did you hear that we were calling for votes for tabling this item?
Sorry, I got dropped for a second. Is the motion the
Yes.
table?
So the motion was made by Mr. Dean to table it, and second by Mr. Schmidt. I have 2 yays and 1 nay here. How do you vote?
I'm in favor of tabling it. Aye.
Okay, so that motion carries 3-1. Moving on, we have 2 more items here, and it is getting quite late. Do we want to table these? Is that going to be workable, or what's the issue?
I'd prefer to push on. I think they're pretty minor unless you have a lot of concerns with the remaining items.
It's already so late. I want to finish them so they're not
Yeah.
on the next agenda.
Okay, we'll move
do
on to
it.
the next item, item I.
Let's do it.
So this is a resolution accepting the base bid grant. So the City of Bel Aire was awarded a base grant in 2023. And the following action accepts amended contract, and city attorney has reviewed, and city manager is available for questions.
Basically, if you followed along my timeline, it's been a big project. But this is the final amendment to the contract, and happy to say that it's coming through.
Good thing, because we're already spending the money.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean Smith.
a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing acceptance of the Building a Stronger Economy Base Grant Award of $4,716,225 from the Kansas Department of Commerce as presented, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, a second by Mr. Welch. Any questions or discussion?
Ted, thanks for getting this done.
Yeah, thanks. Been a long time on this.
You believe how it'll stay with me for a while.
All the
Okay.
follow-up stuff.
If there is no questions or discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, I have 4 ayes. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item J is, this is utility vehicle used in the rec center on a daily to maintain our ball fields and provide outdoor programming. A new rec utility vehicle has been budgeted in the equipment replacement fund, and 3 quotes are provided for council's consideration. Recreation Director Brian Hayes.
Sorry,
he's
Brian's not here tonight.
He's not here, so I guess it's not,
Sorry.
that note's so good.
Well, tell him we
All right.
decided not to vote on it.
You got
Yeah.
you got
He'll be
you got me.
thrilled.
Honestly, this would probably be done through the normal budget cycle, but we put it in the equipment replacement plan, which all those come before you. The low bid, Brian's really happy with Kansas Golf and Turf, what they provided, what they have. They use this. It's like a gator. That's the common
One of
word.
them is a
So
gator.
we use it. It's not a gator, but that's what the common word is.
One is.
Well, one is, but
choice.
John Deere is a gator.
John
That's
Deere, it's kind of like Kleenex, I guess. ATV, they use it every day. They hooked up the rake for the infields to one of the mowers in the meantime. So I think they're going to go pick up the low bid tomorrow to make sure we have it for this weekend.
You brought up a question. The Cushman, you could have just signed for, correct? But the other 2, we would have to vote if we wanted that option.
Correct. And the way I interpret any non-budgeted fund, which is the equipment replacement plan, I need to come before you. And usually they're $100,000
Big
items. And that's why I think I made a little bit of, this probably doesn't belong in the equipment replacement fund in future years. It probably just belongs in the regular rec budget, but this is where we're at.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Dean.
I move we accept a quote for a new UTV from Kansas Golf and Turf, an amount not to exceed $9,570.75, funded by the Equipment Replacement Fund, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract as presented.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Dean, and a second by Mr. Welch. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. And any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. No need for an executive session. I think we're kind of exhausted. I don't know if we want to do any discussions or future issues.
Don't want another half-hour executive session.
I think the only direction Ann and I want on discussion of future issues is with this lawn terrace. And I believe the gist of it and the marching orders is go slow, rip up
Yeah.
what we
We're gonna be here-
can.
We're going to be another 30 minutes if we're going to start talking.
No, but if we run
literally.
it, but I need a little bit of direction because we could run into the exact same issue we just ran into, and it creates a little issue. And they're thinking about getting started on Thursday. We asked them to hold off till after this meeting on the lawn terrace neighborhood.
I mean, I'll make a statement about it. So, right, there's a balance here, right? If we're doing rehab work and you're doing a block at a time, and we can just understand that a block at a time full replacement is probably going to be in the 100,000 range, 100 to 150,000 range, we can kind of predict, right? That is an asphalt cost. But I will say that if we start going with, hey, just do 20 feet or 30 feet or half a block, the unit prices are going to go up from the bidder. So we have to balance this risk versus, rewards. I'll just make that statement in general. I think the way you've handled it with doing a block at a time is probably the smallest amount we probably want to do, but I'll take your thoughts on that too. And maybe we need to get feedback from APAC on maybe what they'd suggest on where's the best balance for the unit?
I'll say we have another balance in there. If we don't do all of it, we should get money back credited for what we're not doing. So there should be some in there that I don't know how much it costs per block. Maybe you can figure that out, that we could tear up a fair chunk. And if it's bad, we can say, don't do these other ones and we'll use that money to pay for this section.
You're just shrinking your scope, basically.
instead of saying, yeah, it's an add-on. We may still have to vote on it, but we could trade it, I think. Is that doable?
That's doable.
I think what you're saying, let me restate it. So what you're saying is we would do less square area, and that would be something we would have to put into next year, right? Our plan, we just get less done this year, and that we'd have to add to next year's. I'm just restating it. That's why I understand.
Right.
Correct. The plan would be to start with Kruger, that comes directly off of 45th Street, because that's the piece that we had torn up with the culvert replacement. So the plan would be to start from there, and hopefully we can get all the way up to Oliver, because it does go up and turn. If not, we'll kind of find a reasonable stopping place at an intersection, hopefully. And we will kind of calculate what the footage is and what the price would be for not doing the rest of the streets in Lawn Terrace. And that would be saved for 2026. So we would not only have that 130,000 that's left over after approving the change order this evening, plus whatever number is left. And we'll just have to we're going to do our best. We're going to keep watch. And if we do go over budget, it should be pretty minimally, because we'll be kind of keeping watch and coming to a decent point. So we're going to try very, very close.
So
I think we're close enough to budget at 130,000. I don't know that I want to go up to the line. We've already gone over what we were planning on spending, so.
So I'm going to make this comment, but we can go with your direction that you've already provided. But I think we're getting into an area where micromanaging these roads and making it very difficult to get things done. When we end up with it always happens in construction. When you have you do things, you're going to end up with problems, and there are going to be change orders. We can do a better process of getting change orders approved by council. I think that's fine, but I think this is just too much micromanaging, and we are really inhibiting our ability to get things done. I also think that it's okay if we go over budget and we amend the budget. We don't do it very often in Bel Aire, but it's a very common practice in most cities that they amend their budgets. And there is plenty of money in the reserves to cover another $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever it might be. That would not be a huge impact for our next year's budget process at all. And so that's just my view on this. I think to me, the best plan is to say, and go and get these roads done, get them going as best you can. And if you have issues you need to bring to council, bring them to council, but keep on moving.
I disagree.
I know, but I'm stating my disagreement
Yeah.
with your positions. Okay.
I don't, if we spent the extra 130,000, I'd be okay with that, but I'm afraid that we'll go over that. And I don't think we should just plow ahead with everything at this point, knowing what we know, because we could easily go 500,000, $1 million over if we tore all those streets out now and found they all need replaced.
Yep.
And
Good.
we don't have the $1 million sitting there, even if we use money from someplace else.
Yeah, you do.
We don't have that kind of cushion, I don't think,
Yeah, you do.
in our fund. I'm looking at Ted. He's not answering. I don't care what your answer is right now, Jim. Ted's my guy.
Well,
I mean,
look at the budget.
That's where you would go somewhere like the general fund and do an extra transfer to the street fund, or somewhere like the land bank fund, and you utilize that money.
It would
So
require a
those
budget
are
adjustment.
those
No
are
question
our-
about that.
Those are 2 pots of money for this type of improvements.
Yeah, and that's a bad habit. If we
Well,
we
what's
start-
really worse is to put our staff in a micromanagement position where they can't move forward with projects and get these projects done. And then we risk having to demobilize and remobilize construction crews, and makes it even a bigger mess. I think when you start into them, you get them done. We work with the change orders if we need to, and go forward and stop micromanaging. Like I said, you're the city council. I don't get to vote on this stuff, but that's just my view.
That's why I'm saying, and it'll take working with APAC, but I think you let them know that we can't afford another change order of more than 100,000 or something, and see what they can do. And they'll have to use their own decision. I mean, if they get there and they can tear up 2 blocks and say it's fine and put asphalt back on it, that's great. we got the money, we already said we're going to pay for it. But if they tear up 2 blocks and find out it's a total rebuild, then they need to say, how are we going to make Bel Aire happy?
The problem with that statement is the onus goes back. So Ann's doing her job. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate Mayor's comments about micromanaging. She's doing her job. They tear out part of the road. We see soft spots. She inspects it. Hey, we're not going to put good material on top of that because it's just going to fail. So that's when Ann comes to us, and we've in this situation where my recommendation, I'm talking for Ann's professional recommendation is we should replace this because it would be a waste of money to just, proceed with the patch and you've done that. And so I appreciate what you've done. And I think we're handling it well by just keeping the areas as small so they're manageable and you making judgment calls in the field. And I have every confidence that you know the budget and that you will know how to shrink the scope of our quantities to make us get close. Like you said, you're not going to get perfect, but you're going to be close. And so I think that is probably the right way to continue to do
I
it.
thought that was what I was saying, what you just said.
I think that's the right way. I think your comment of just reducing the scope because it's going to be twice the price, and we'd rather let's just adjust our road management plan for next year to include this section we couldn't get to, and that's another option other than amending a budget. That's the other side of the coin.
It's going to be enough doing it.
Either way, you're managing money or you're managing scope that you're going to spend in the future. It's just which year you're going to do it in.
I think we have the direction we need. I think we can work with this. And like you said, if we run into any problems, we'll call,
I'm perfectly willing to meet next Tuesday if we need to. If they get into stuff and we find we need to expand how much we're spending, I'll be here next Tuesday. I'll be here Friday of this week if you get there that soon.
Okay, we're ready to go on to adjournment?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I
Dean-
move we adjourn.
Dean.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Schmidt. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Opposed, see bad. The motion carries 4-0. Let's go home.